All right, everybody, here we go. It is Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. My name is Robb Carter. Welcome to the future. #1 podcast in America. Check this out, Isaiah. Just as I was getting ready to go on, I get this from it's a text sent to me. It says, Missouri Supreme Court fine notice issuing officer Gustav Melville, give me his badge number, Judge Kimberly Toland, Clerk Adam Bloomfield, case number, gives me a case number. It says, you have been cited for texting while driving, which is a violation of Missouri law. Please settle this matter by 9:30 a.m. on April 22nd, 2026. This dangerous behavior compromises the safety of all road users and is strictly enforced. Penalties can include fines, points on your driving record, and license suspension. Please address this issue promptly to avoid additional consequences. I would assume this is a ruse, but I wonder how many people fall for these type of things, because most people at some point...
Like a text message saying
I got this in the text message. It's from 212 area code, which is Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So very interesting how the game is played. There's so many cons and scams going on, and I guess we're just immune to it now.
I just got a text. It's funny that you say that, because I just got a text. It's an email. It's not even a real... I don't want to expose some people's phone numbers here, but it's an email and it says, hi, this is Sophia representing Amazon's recruitment team. You fit our...
Okay. Oh, yeah. They're always trying to recruit you. Okay, today on the show, let me give you an update real quick. Bryant Wolfen was supposed to be on at 9:30. We're a fan of Bryant Wolfen. He's the constitutional guy in the Missouri House of Representatives. He sent me a message this morning, said they had moved a committee meeting till 9 a.m. He was supposed to come on at 9:30, so he has to cancel. In his place, we're going to have a woman by the name of Trisha Hope. Trisha Hope was just talked about on CNN, so we're going to bring in Trisha Hope. She is somebody who published 2 books called Just the Tweets. This was every tweet that Donald Trump put out. She put it in leather-bound form. She sold them out completely. Her and I have been in coordination and communication all the way back to my original podcast days. She is from Texas. She is somebody who spends a lot of time in Washington, D.C. She was an absolutely huge fan of Donald Trump, as was I at the time. She's fallen off the Donald Trump train. As I keep saying, I have 1 foot off. I'm getting closer to having 2 feet off. I know there are so many people that listen to all of the stories coming out of Washington, D.C. and the major news networks. I just happen not to believe any of them. I come from the mindset that if you lie to me over and over and over, and that I know that you're lying, it's very hard for me to trust your motives, and that's where I'm at with Donald Trump. I hate to say it to everybody. I know I'm going to lose a lot of people for that, but I just got to be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Something isn't right. I'm not buying to what they're selling. I certainly pray for Donald Trump. I hope that the Lord is using him for the right reasons, but I cannot take what's going on anymore. It's just bizarre. We'll talk a little bit about that because Tucker Carlson had Buckley Carlson on, and they talked about their understanding of Donald Trump, their meetings with him, their conversations with him. And again, if we are to look at Donald Trump and what's happening now versus what he ran on in 2016, we actually have the polar opposite person. The person that ran in 2016 is the complete opposite of the person that is governing in 2026. And there's just no doubt about that anymore. You can say whatever you want. He's realigning this
FISA 702.
FISA 702. Donald Trump railed on the idea of FISA 702. If people don't know what that is, these are warrantless searches that the government can use because they're stopping terrorism. Donald Trump railed against the 702 FISA warrants because they were used to spy on his campaign in 2016. And now in 2026, he's jamming it through Congress, or trying to jam it through Congress, because he wants the state to have the ability to spy on American citizens. Same thing with the AI data centers, Project Stargate. All of these things are in motion. The Republican Party is walking in lockstep with Donald Trump. I don't like constant surveillance. I just think it's bad for us. I mean, I'm getting a text message that most people would look at that, and if they're not savvy with what's going on in the world, would look at that and go, oh, I was texting and driving the other day. I've got to stop that habit. And then somehow, some way, this is going to be a scam, I would assume. Right? Where do I want to start today? Here are the things I'm going to talk about. Every time I start a podcast, I start with 2 things. Number 1 is John F. Kennedy's speech to the press club. If you have not heard John F. Kennedy's speech to the press club in April of 1961, it is one of the most fascinating insights to what's going on in our world that any president has ever uttered. It is from it's him explaining the global conspiracy against America. and then he gets assassinated. You have all the assassinations in the 60s. So I like to start there because it gives people a frame of reference as to what we're experiencing post assassination of John F. Kennedy. We can go all the way back to the establishment of the Federal Reserve, World War II. But our modern world began to change when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. It appears to me that the intelligence agencies now run our country. And having said that, the next story that I like to tell is of the Franklin cover-up. You and I were talking just a little bit earlier about the Franklin cover-up. If you don't know what that is, it's the story of the Franklin Community Federal Savings and Loan. I'll give you just a brief overview, and then we'll get into it right around 10 o'clock today, Central Standard Time. We're going to get into it. Like and share, like and share, like and share, like and share. This is a story that will blow your mind if you're unaware of it. The detail is undeniable. Paul Bonacci was someone that got caught up in the Franklin Community Federal Savings and Loan scandal. And just very briefly, what happened was this guy by the name of Larry King, not the Larry King you see on CNN. This was somebody who ran the Black Republican movement back in the 80s. He actually sang at the Republican National Convention, opened up with the Star Spangled Banner in 1980 and 84, I believe, or 84 and 88. But two of them, he opened it up by singing the national anthem. He was a principal in the Franklin Community Federal Savings and Loan out of Omaha, Nebraska. The FBI was investigating him for malfeasance that was going on within this bank. And when they arrested him, his pictures began to spread all over the media in Nebraska. When his pictures began to spread throughout the media in Nebraska, kids started calling up and say they were working with him out of Boys Town, and he was trafficking kids to people all over the country. Okay, flying them into Washington, D.C., flying them into California, flying them into Utah, flying them all over the place. And they claimed that he was trafficking kids to powerful people in the world. Very Jeffrey Epstein-like, if you understand what I'm saying. So this guy, then there's a guy by the name of John DeCamp who hears this, and he goes out and does a local interview, and he says, listen, I am a representative of the Nebraska state government. I oversee the banking community. If this were a true story, I'd know all about it. This has to be nonsense. At that time, he gets contacted either from Paul Bonacci or people surrounding him, and he decides that he wants to go talk to this young man in prison. Because the day that Larry King, the day that his picture got out into the media, Paul Bonacci was arrested immediately. Okay, so just remember that. So Paul Bonacci is like 18 years old at the time. As this story begins to break, the police immediately pick up Paul Bonacci and charge him with whatever they charge him with. Okay. When John DeCamp, this state, I think he was a state senator from Nebraska, when he goes to interview Paul Bonacci, who's now in prison and is telling the story that he was trafficked by Larry King, he tells the story as he's walking in. There's a court-appointed psychiatrist walking out, and Larry King says to him, this kid's telling lies, right? This story is ridiculous. And the guy goes, well, he's not lying. He is diagnosed with multiple personalities. He doesn't even have the ability to lie. He's just calling it from the back of his mind, and he's not lying. He believes that it's true. So John DeCamp, that kind of freaks him out. He goes in, he does this interview, and he believes what this young man is saying, Paul Bonacci. Paul Bonacci had a photographic memory. He kept a diary throughout the entire process. And if you don't mind, just very quickly, if you can, it was on number 2. Can you scroll that through the screen?
Oh yeah, I was wondering.
It was reported by the Washington Times back in the early 80s, or mid to late 80s, I guess I should say. And if you can show that real quick, show the screen. This is what the Washington Times was reporting. There it is, the Washington Times. Homosexual prostitution inquiry ensnares VIPs with Reagan and Bush. So what Paul Bonacci said was that he was being trafficked into Washington, D.C. in the middle of the night. They would have big parties within the big parties, sex parties, pedophilic parties, where these young kids aged 10 to 14, 15 years old were being brought into Washington, D.C. He claims that he was involved with G.H.W. Bush, who he said was a pedophile and a homosexual. And the stories are believable because of all the documentation that he had, his ability for recall. He had a photographic mind because of the multiple personality situation. And it's a crazy story. We're going to talk about it at 10. You may roll your eyes and think that it's crazy, but he took it to court. He took it to a civil court, and they ruled in his favor. He won the civil court. That's how much information is out there to back up what he is saying. He won $1 million judgment because if you watch the trial, he is one of the most bizarre characters. There's times where it looks like he is an actual computer. His eyes kind of roll around and get all crazy, and then he'll recite things. It is one of the most bizarre testimonies ever. As far as I'm concerned, it was just absolutely crazy. Again, his name is Paul Bonacci. So we'll tell you all about that story. We'll play the videos for you. There's an America's Most Wanted story that you'll get to see the behind the scenes where the producers are interviewed about the things that Paul Bonacci was able to recite. You'll hear from, there's a woman named Faith Daniels who did a local TV, these back in the Oprah Winfrey days and the Sally Jesse Raphael days when studio talk shows were very big. They had a woman by the name of Mrs. Gosh. I don't know her first name. Her son, Johnny Gosh. You recognize any of these names, by the way, Isaiah?
No.
Johnny Gosh. Remember when they put the faces of kids on milk cartons? Are you aware of that? Is that before your time as well?
Okay. No, I do remember that.
He was the first child to have his face on a milk carton.
Oh, okay.
Okay. When everybody was looking for Johnny Gosh, Paul Bonacci. Yep. Paul Bonacci said that he was involved in the kidnapping of Johnny Gosh. And because of some of the stories that he was able to tell about Johnny Gosh, his mother and private investigators said there's no way that he would know this much about Johnny. These are things that only somebody that knew him very well would have any understanding of. In fact, he says that Johnny Gosh put his initials on a bathroom wall. They went back and found his initials on this bathroom wall. So there's so much information that aligns with Paul Bonacci and Johnny Gosh that it'll blow your mind. And the reason I continue to tell these stories is 99% of people just cannot believe that these stories are true. So you go from Paul Bonacci, Johnny Gosh, then you go to a woman by the name of Kathy O'Brien, who wrote the book Transformation of America, where she says all of this is real, that the United States government, their FBI, and people aligned with the intelligence agencies, they arrest pedophiles because they're pushing forth things through the mail, or now it would be the internet. They arrest them, and then they bring them into their fold because they want to use their kids versus sending the parent off to prison for 30 years for pedophilia. They basically take the kid in under their wing. They enrich the pedophile, and the story continues on. So you go from Johnny Gosh, Paul Bonacci, to Kathy O'Brien in her book, Transformation of America. If you want to look up the Paul Bonacci, Johnny Gosh story, it's called The Franklin Cover-Up. I've read both books. They are phenomenal. And they're very hard to, it's amazing that you don't have more of these stories on the network news because they're so believable that it's hard to even doubt them when you really get down to brass tacks. And that leads us right up into Jeffrey Epstein and what is happening there. Because if you look at the Jeffrey Epstein case, that is the one that got everybody's attention. And what happened with the case? Donald Trump and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and that whole group, they were going to get to the bottom of it. They were doing podcast interviews. Dan Bongino had his radio show and the podcast, and they were going to get to the bottom of it. They were going to get to the bottom of it. And right when you think you're going to get to the bottom of it, and it's going to become this big story on Fox and CNN and ABC and the like, Donald Trump calls it a hoax. So again, they take you right up to where you think you might get some information. It's shut off. They change the narrative into the Iran war, or they change the narrative into something else. And as that hypnotist yesterday tried to explain, it's something I just recognized by watching. It just made sense to me. I'm somebody who is fascinated by propaganda. I'm fascinated by the teachings of Edward Bernays. I'm fascinated with how the media is able to shape public opinion. I'm fascinated by it because it happened to me. I think that's why I'm fascinated by it, Isaiah. It happened to me.
Like, how can this happen to me?
You just don't think it can happen to you. Nobody thinks that because of the information that they digest and the things that capture their imagination and they begin talking about them, that it becomes a form of brainwashing because what you're thinking about, that's what's in your mind. And that is what you're talking about. Therefore, all I have to do is give you a more sensational narrative like UFOs and aliens from outer space, 300,000 kids being trafficked into the United States. It doesn't even make the news anymore. All of these just wild stories, they control what you're thinking about. Therefore, it controls your mind.
Did you see that Dinesh D'Souza just went on Joe Rogan's podcast to try to re-spark the conversation about Epstein?
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think Dinesh D'Souza is a good guy. I used to watch his documentaries. I think he's very talented. I think his documentaries are spot on. But I also
transferred. My mom went from Tucker to him. She used to love Tucker, and now I don't know why she doesn't like Tucker, but she doesn't like Tucker.
She doesn't like Tucker because of the way he's been described.
Yeah. I think
That's what's happening.
I think it's the glazing, which is that's like a young person word of, like, he's, talking positive about Islam and things like that, and so I just think she doesn't like that, and so,
Oh, I
but
got
she's
you.
a big fan of Dinesh D'Souza. Big,
But
big
why?
fan.
But your mom's a Christian, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Why would Christians worry about another person's religion if that other religion is not invading your country, not hurting you? We have freedom of religion and freedom of speech. I don't understand because a lot of people feel that way, Isaiah, but I don't really understand why. Are we taught in Christianity
Well,
to hate
I
the
would
Islamic
say
faith?
we're not taught to hate them, but we're taught to call out heresies.
Yep.
And so in the same way that I would call out Islam, I would call out a Mormon. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
so it's not that they're Muslim and I'm scared of them because they're a terrorist. It's no, that their theology is wrong. Allah is not God. Muhammad is not the prophet. He
What about
died.
what about the Talmud,
The
where they say
Talmud?
that
Oh my gosh,
Jesus is living in feces? What do they think
yeah,
of that?
so the Talmud is interesting because a lot of people, I don't know if you know the origin of what they say the origin of the Talmud is. And so when Moses was on Mount Sinai, he got the 10 commandments.
Right.
Well, that's the written law. They say also he got an oral law that he didn't write down. And so that's what the Talmud is supposed to be. And there's multiple parts. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. And I had to read the Talmud in school and study it and things like that. But there's two parts. There's the main part. It's called the Mishnah. That's the laws. And then the other half is all these rabbis writing around it. It looks like, if you would scribble notes in your Bible or something, that's kind of what it's like. It's all these rabbis' takes on what this law means.
Gotcha.
And so just an example of how this plays out is in the Bible, it tells us not to mix milk and meat. Well, the Talmud and the rabbis take it a step further and they say, oh, not really mixed milk and meat. Sorry. They tell us not to boil a kid in its mother's milk. That's what the Bible tells us.
And we need to know that. That's something we need to be reminded of.
Yeah. So don't boil a baby goat in its mother's own milk.
Gotcha.
But then the Talmud takes it. We want to be careful. So we're never going to eat milk and meat together, just in case there's the happenstance that maybe that milk that we got is from the mother of this cow,
But how does the Talmud depict Jesus?
Not positively. The Jewish people don't really think positive of Jesus.
Ben Shapiro just said that. Real quick.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro said that recently when he was on Joe Rogan, as a matter of fact. You talk about Joe Rogan. He basically said, implied that Jesus was sort of a con man. That's kind of what he implied. And
yeah, that's what they believe.
Conservatives, Christian conservatives, even able to tolerate somebody like Ben Shapiro, if you're truly in the faith, what is the difference between what Ben Shapiro is saying and Islam? I mean, they're both off base, in our opinion, right?
Yes, the exact same. That's my point.
Heresy.
It's all that's heresy. The Talmud is not, that is not law. That is not biblical. That is that is a man-made interpretation that was written way, way later, by rabbis that wanted to organize this. And so the thing about the Jewish people, and because I was a missionary to the Jewish people, I evangelized the Jewish people to try to get them to convert to Christianity. And they do not like Jesus. They hate Jesus. There's TV shows in Israel that mock Jesus, like children's shows that mock Jesus. And
you were there, you saw it.
Oh yeah, it's not everyone. There's people that are open to conversations, but
like every society.
Yeah, like every society. But the religious people are more they push back a lot. They get in your face. They tell me that my mother's ashamed of me. Spit on me, hit me, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Then my question is, knowing that, because I agree with you, this is what my study, and this is not firsthand experience. That's why I don't drive it home to people. I cannot understand why we are rewriting our laws, why the Republicans are allowed to rewrite. Just very quickly, and then I'll get back to finishing up just the introduction to the Franklin cover-up and the Paul Benassi, Johnny Gosch story. But this is a headline down in Florida. A Florida student was arrested and is now facing up to 15 years in jail for making a joke about Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The student allegedly wrote that Netanyahu should get bonbons. Bonbons should put bonbons, and they took that as bombs. But you can't even play a joke.
Yeah, that's a joke. That's
said it was a joke.
Yeah,
and they're now they're trying to put this. I saw the court. I was watching the court hearing. It's or the court testimony. This is what's going on in all of our states, and nobody even pays attention to it. It's the most asinine, most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I don't want to get mad. I promise myself with you, you're very calming to me. I won't get mad. But this is happening in Missouri. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. This Haruza person just put forth some legislation. The the International Holocaust Remembrance Association, the IHRA, has a definition of anti-Semitism, which basically means you can't question anything. It breaks these laws within the colleges, and you can get yourself in trouble. Just passed in Missouri. In Missouri, if you want to do business with the state of Missouri, you have to sign a loyalty pledge. In my opinion, that's what it is. A loyalty pledge not to boycott Israel. Think about that. And if you don't make that pledge, and if you do more than $100,000 worth of business with the state of Missouri, which is a huge company, then they won't let you do business with them. I mean, nobody I got to start asking these people when they come on. Nobody in the Missouri state government seems to find any problem with that. When Haruza put forth that bill, it was unanimously voted by the Republican Party. They don't even notice that a foreign country, Israel, is putting forth speech laws in our own state. We had an IDF soldier, an IDF general, as a matter of fact, come and meet with Mike Kehoe. Nobody said a word. I'm like, why does an IDF general come to meet with our governor in the state of Missouri? What is that all about? Nobody even talked about it. You have the free speech laws. You have the business laws all wrapped around Israel. And then, as you say, Israel and the religious people that follow the Talmud, they hate Christians. And this is a Christian nation, or it used to be. I thought it was a Christian nation. I don't know anymore. I used to think it was.
All they're doing, and this is going to maybe sound a little conspiratorial, but it's just the truth, is that all they're doing is the religious Jews are playing off the dispensational theology of evangelicals and creating this alliance of Christians and Jews because they want to use the Christians to bolster the image, if that makes sense.
Correct. And align with the Western world.
And align with the West. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they can partner with the Christians, then politically, then the Christian world has to support Israel. Correct. If we're creating these alliances. There's no Islamic Christian alliance. You know what I mean?
Yes, and let's make sure it's not all Jewish people. I don't want to go there. I want to make sure that people understand that I love all people. I have so many Jewish people that I love. We married into a Jewish family. I don't want to go through my resume with the Jewish people, but some of the most powerful people and influence of my life have been Jewish people. I'm talking about Zionist ideology. I'm talking about the government of Israel and what they're doing in alignment with our intelligence agencies. And now the Trump administration. I mean, good Lord, the Trump administration, I think, works for Israel. I mean, Miriam Adelson gave the guy $230 million, and he went from 2016 Trump to 2026 Trump. They're polar opposite. And then I'm defending myself constantly by saying, wait a minute, I thought you voted for no more war. Well, this war we have to fight because they're going to have nuclear weapons. Okay. I thought you voted for the complete removal of everybody that was here illegal. Well, you can't really do that because the agricultural and the hospitality industry, and Trump tried to explain that. I said, I know, but that's not what he ran on.
5D chess.
Is it 5D chess or is it 5D BS? I guess that's where we have to come to. I'm not mad at Trump supporters. You don't have to get all upset with me. I'm just trying to understand how you can now be cheering on the exact same thing that you cheered for in 2016. Now you're cheering against your own interests. It's the exact opposite. Donald Trump on almost every issue is on the exact opposite side of where he once was, and nobody even notices. Nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. I don't get it.
Yeah. Okay. The chat is going crazy with this subject. So this is really cool. I wanted to at least address some of these things because it's going crazy about all this. Someone asked, do those Jews try to kill you? Not me personally, but they did just kill Lebanese Christians.
And Gazan Christians.
And
Syrian Christians.
Yeah.
It depends on who you call you, right? Because and you have to understand from the viewpoint of the people in the Middle East, and I'm not defending what they're doing. We're interfering in their countries. We're interfering in the Middle East. We're taking their oil. We're bombing Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, and on and on and on and on. When they come here and they cause trouble for us, you don't even know if that's real or scripted through our CIA. You have to remember, where's my clip? Let me respond to this person because I understand where they're coming from, but I got to bring Trisha up here in just a minute, but I just got to get to the bottom of this. Hang on, let me find it here. Here we go, 4-2. So I just want people to listen to this. Every time somebody says that to me, here we go. Listen to this. This is testimony from our State Department in Congress. Listen to what they say.
Mr. Burchett for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Khamsi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataiba Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.
Understand where it's coming from? Let me explain to people who may not just follow my...
Turn your volume up.
Okay. I could be wrong. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good?
I think you turned the volume down on the on your Rodecaster a little bit.
Let me explain from my point of view what is happening. We fund terror networks. We fund them. Your taxpayer money goes into these organizations, these NGOs, dark money, that goes and funds terror organizations, people that you think you're fighting against from your government. They create mass atrocities all over the world. We then look at those mass atrocities and say we have to stop these people that our NGO money, your taxpayer money funded, as this man just explained, and then we give ourselves a bigger military budget so that we can go fight people that we funded in the first place.
Yeah, Hezbollah.
They have to create the problem to get a reaction from the American citizens, to create more money for the military, the CIA, and all of these intelligence operations to go solve the problem that was created by us in the first place. And if you don't believe that, I just ask that you pay attention. If you pay attention long enough, that's going to be self-evident. You're not going to doubt it anymore. It just becomes so obvious that that's what's going on. All of the information is out there. Again, that's why I had the hypnosis guy on yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
If you only get that the Islamic people are terrible and they want to kill you, if that's what you get, and that's what you hear over and over and over, regardless of whether it's true or not, it's in your subconscious, and that's what you believe, but you never understand the stories behind it. That's why I always talk about Iran, and I get riled up about it. Mossadegh, however you want to pronounce his name, was overthrown in 1953 by the British and the American CIA. We installed the Shah. Yeah. They don't like our way of life over there. No. They don't like it. That's not what they're into. They're a very Islamic, disciplined country. For centuries, not over the last 50 years, but for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, how long, Isaiah? I don't know. 6, 8, 10,000 years?
Yeah, long time.
This is their
Persians were before that.
Right. So when we come in and we want string bikinis and we want transgenderism, they're like, wait a minute, that's too far for us. We don't like that. And they kicked out the Shah because their culture was becoming too Western. Did some people like it? Of course.
It reminds me of America with the liberalization of the Republican Party and how the young people are now pushing back against that now. It's the exact same type of response. It's the only thing that you'll get by doing something like that.
Yes. I want to get back to that, but I want to bring in Trisha Hope. I think is she on with us yet?
Nope.
Okay.
It'll let you know. It'll pop up when she enters.
Okay. Send her a little reminder. Let's let me remind Trisha. Let me remind her real fast.
I emailed her the link. I haven't been put in spam yet, but maybe.
Hang on. Let me just get to her real fast.
Yeah.
You should have our link. Check spam. Let's play her clip real fast so I can kind of explain it. So she is, what is her clip number? She is, I think it was the last one I sent you, wasn't it? Or no, that was Larry King. I'll find it. Everybody just calm down. Calm down, everybody.
This is the nice thing about not having to, go to a break or anything. You can do what you want.
Where is it? Okay, here we go. It's clip number 6. Okay. So Trisha Hope is mentioned in this Aaron Burnett out front CNN piece. And what they're asking about, and this is the question we're going to ask for the day, is Donald Trump playing 5D chess? And I really want everybody's opinion on it. If you're a Donald Trump loyalist and you understand what he's doing, and I'm just not smart enough to understand it, which is very possible. I'm not saying that condescendingly. It's very possible that is happening. I'm not a fan of deceit used for good reasons. I remember my buddy Charlie, he listens to the show pretty much every day. When I was defending Trump from the very beginning, he said, Rob, he is a con man. How can you not recognize that he's a con man? And I said, I recognize the con in Donald Trump, but I think he's a con for the good. And he said, listen to yourself. And now that I'm a little bit further down the line, I'm starting to recognize, well, maybe I just wanted these things so bad because I saw the nonsense that was going on in our government that I wanted to believe that Donald Trump was playing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10D chess. And therefore, everything that he did that didn't quite make sense really had benevolent motives. And now I'm looking at it going, there's no way you have benevolent motives when you stuck needles in the arms of American citizens with the COVID con job. You called out somebody by the name of Thomas Massey, a congressman from Kentucky, because he wanted the vote on the CARES Act, $2.2 trillion. They said $6.2 trillion at the time, but $2.2 trillion to bring every person in to vote on the CARES Act, because he said we're going to lose our republic and nobody's going to have to show up to even vote on it. He demanded that every person in Congress go into the Capitol and vote on it. Okay. So that is where Donald Trump started. I'm going, wait a minute, what's going on around here? I see Trisha's on, but don't bring Trisha on just yet. Let's play this clip and then we'll have Trisha respond. Actually, bring Trisha on and then we'll play the clip so she can hear it as well.
She can hear it.
Hey, Trish. All right, we're going to play your clip. We're going to play your clip real fast and then we'll bring you on. So this is from CNN. We're going to hear back. There you go. We're going to play this clip from CNN where Trish is mentioned. Again, Trish and I are people that I think we were the biggest Donald Trump supporters. I think we swayed thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people to pay attention to Donald Trump. I mean, from the get-go. We're talking about early on, we were supporting Donald Trump. She was very outspoken for Donald Trump. So was I. I think I started to get skeptical before her that everything was as it seemed. And then I think there are things that happened. I think Charlie Kirk, January 6th, I think her confidence began to erode. And now we're starting to question everything. So her question out on social media was about the Butler assassination attempt. How many people out there look at that assassination attempt with the media taking the position? You have the American flag underneath. You had an assassin get on top of a shed within striking distance. He's aiming a gun with everybody pointing it out. And then a bystander, a fireman, gets shot and Donald Trump gets nicked in the ear. And then they put a bandage on his ear. Then they have the Republican National Convention right after that. All of the sympathy goes to Donald Trump. And a lot of people from the very beginning said, it seems a little fake to me. They even had Hulk Hogan at the RNC convention. It all looked just a little bit fake. I'm not saying that it is. I don't even know anymore, but I would not doubt it the way I once would. At one time, somebody who said that, I said, that's just the most ridiculous thing in the world. But now I'm starting to wonder what's true and what is false. So Trish, she questioned it. She's got a big audience on X and social media. She's a player in the game. And questioning it got her post on CNN. Okay, so let's hear it. This is Out Front with Aaron Burnett on CNN, where Trisha's mentioned. We'll bring Trisha on to get her opinion. Check it out.
Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeting 3 times in less than 24 hours, raising questions about the 2024 assassination attempt of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, which was so crucial to that election, including asking, quote, President Trump of all people should be leading the charge. Why isn't he? And she adds, why the cover-up? The former Trump ally joining a growing list of conservatives raising similar questions and demanding answers. Tony O'Sullivan is out front.
And what really frightens me and scares me and makes me angry is suddenly now I'm in on a conspiracy theory.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Some liberals have long dabbled in conspiracy theories about the Trump assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania.
The first thing that ran through my head is because we cannot believe this man ever, that it was somehow fake.
Like these women I met at an anti-Trump protest outside the RNC a couple of days after Butler.
So you initially thought it was staged?
Yep. Yes, as we all did.
Do you still believe that?
Yes.
We don't know.
I'm not sure.
It's not impossible.
But I couldn't help but wonder, because we've been lied to over and over by this man. The way he came up and raised his fist and acted like it was nothing.
Since the early days of the investigation, the FBI has repeatedly pushed back on conspiracy theories about Trump's would-be assassin, Thomas Crooks. Both Justice Departments under President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have found the same thing.
Just to be clear, did Thomas Crooks act alone?
Yes, based on the evidence that we have, that is the conclusive finding of the matter.
But over the last few weeks, as many are speaking out against the Iran war,
just admit you staged it in Butler. It was the heat of the campaign. People do crazy things in campaigns.
Prominent people who supported Trump's re-election campaign, like comedian Tim Dillon, have started to express doubts about what happened in Butler that day. Trump survived, but Corey Comparator, who was standing in the crowd behind him, died.
Now, of course, a real person died, and that's terrible. R.I.P. And they should say that in high-stakes things like this, stuff like that happens.
Joe, thanks a lot for joining us.
Butler conspiracy theories really started to pick up in the MAGA world after Joe Kent appeared on the Tucker Carlson show last month. Kent was a high-ranking intelligence official who resigned in protest over the Iran war.
I mean, we still don't know what happened in Butler. We don't know what happened with Charlie Kirk. And by no means am I saying, like, you know, the Israelis did this or any of that, but I'm saying there's a lot of unanswered questions there.
Trisha Hope, who is a Trump delegate at the RNC in 2024, has been vocal online about her doubts, posting, "Since the attempt on his life, Trump has shown no interest in investigating what really happened. He never mentions it. It's as if it never happened, except when he tells us he took a bullet for us." Marjorie Taylor Greene has shared Trisha's post, and she added over the weekend, "I'm not calling the Butler assassination a hoax, but there are a lot of questions that deserve public answers."
The far more significant story involves the government, the DOJ, and the FBI, which have hidden from the public what they know about Thomas Crooks.
All right. Joining us is Trisha Hope. Trisha, long time no talk to. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Rob?
I'm doing fantastic. You and I were at the very beginning of this whole thing. It's kind of a crazy world, isn't it? Did you have any sense that you would become, like, you're big on X. You're getting a lot of attention on X. You made it all the way to CNN. You and I were the biggest Donald Trump supporters in the world at one time. I like to tell people I just got off the radio because I figured I couldn't really talk about the things that I wanted to. So I said, you know what, I'll just do it myself and we'll start our own platforms, thanks to Isaiah. But I want to be able to question these things without being called a crazy person. I want to say, wait a minute, this doesn't really make any sense. I'd be curious to see why, or hear why, you are starting to question what's going down, not only with Donald Trump, but with this assassination.
Well, you know, it all started, I believe it was July 8th, when President Trump was in his cabinet meeting, and the reporter asked the question about the Epstein files. And his response to that was like a veil was lifted from his face to me. I saw him completely differently. And I've not been able to unsee it. So I look at everything he's done with a critical eye now. And sadly, the Butler situation looks suspicious to me. I wish it didn't. I don't know if there's something, you know, bad there or not, but I have questions. And more importantly, Corey's family has questions that they're not getting answers to.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So the fireman who was killed, what was it, Corey Commentator or something of this nature?
Comparatory, I believe.
Comparatory, yeah, that's it. So his family's asking questions about this because these are the things that I think people should recognize. The shooter, Thomas Crooks, did a commercial for BlackRock.
Mm-hmm.
Original report said that they had tracked his phone into the Washington, D.C., where the FBI building was. The case was closed immediately. The picture with the flag coming down, and then if you watch that video, they kind of hustle all of the media, and they don't know if there's a second shooter. They have no idea what's getting ready to go down. They hustle all of the media in to take this picture where Donald Trump's got his fist. He's got the blood coming down his face. It's just a perfect picture. It hung in the radio station that I was working at. They had that picture in our radio station because it captured everybody's imagination. Christians began to say it was a miracle. This is a guy that is inspired by Jesus, and we're going to have to get behind him because this is what we found. We're getting feedback somewhere. You know what's going on there? There we go.
I think it's just that her mic being on her phone.
Okay. And all of that happened. Are those the ingredients that have you questioning just the story, Trish?
Yes. Well, I tell you, I was, I think you just muted me.
No, I can hear you. Yep. We can hear you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was on my way actually to Wisconsin to be a delegate for Trump when I heard the news about what happened to him. And I was supposed to have a Washington Post reporter shadow me and follow me at the convention, but he reached out to me at that moment, and he sounded very disconcerted about President Trump, and it really pissed me off. And so I canceled everything with him. So I was very upset, extremely upset. Everybody was really upset at the convention. And the night that Trump came to speak, you could have heard a pin drop. Nobody, it was just dead silent. And when he began, he first said, this is the only time he's going to speak of it. This would be the only time he told the story. And in that moment, boy, my radar went off. I thought, what? That is so odd for him to say that, because that's not him. We all know that's not him.
Right.
So that was my first red flag. But I saw the pictures, but I was so involved in other things. I was really there in a way to promote J6ers. I was trying to help bring attention to that issue. I had the hat on, all that stuff. So I was really focused on that and didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the news that was going on about what other people were saying. So, it didn't really affect my thoughts. But his words did. His words, when he said that he was only going to mention it once, it just blew me away. And then ever since then, after that July 8th cabinet meeting, where I feel like he exposed who he really is, I have looked at everything differently. And I question it. And I think there's some things that should be answered. And certainly, like I said, that Corey's family deserves answers. And from everything I understand, they're not getting them. I have read quite a bit of material that they've asked a lot of questions and they're just kind of being shut down. And I find that just repulsive.
I do too. And I don't understand it. You and I, when we were cheerleading for Trump, he was saying a completely different story than he's saying now. That's how I started the show. I said, in 2016, the things that Trump was talking about, fair trade, going after the GOP establishment remember, even in his inauguration speech, he said, these people behind me have enriched themselves at your expense. We're going to return the government back to you, the American people. So I'm like, okay, great. We're not going to start any wars. We're going to have fair trade deals. We're going to expose the Republican establishment for taking advantage of their voters for all of these years. And now we're in the exact opposite. Now we're starting wars. Now we're surveilling people. Now we're starting Stargate. Now we're investing $500 billion into AI data centers that no American seems to have any understanding of or want. And as I began to question that, Trish, people started calling me a traitor. They said, I'm an anti-Semitic. They're going on and on and on. And I started getting attacked, not in a way that would bother me necessarily, because I'm just being curious and being honest with as best I can. But the vitriol that came back at me was brutal. Did you get that when you started to come from another angle? Because you were a big Donald Trump supporter. As you started to change your opinion and come out and speak and start to ask questions, did people in your life, did people on social media, did they begin to attack you relentlessly like they did me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. People who, reached out to me for advice, for opinions, different things like that. Close people to me, people that I know, are questioning me and very upset with me, very upset. And I understand that they're not where I am. I got here a little faster than they did, but I predict in about 4 months, they're going to be real close to where I am.
I do too.
It's just, it takes some people a little bit longer, and it's not a fun trip. It's not a trip I wanted to take. I don't want this to be the case. I would very much like to still be cheerleading, but as a constituent, my job is not to cheerlead. It's to hold him accountable. I took his promises seriously. It is the reason I worked hard to get him elected. He is failing me. I am not failing him. He works for me. And right now I'd like to fire him. That's where I am.
I see it the exact same way. I got to ask you quickly, because I don't know you and I have ever talked about it. One of the things that really started to eat away at me, and so your come to Jesus moment with Donald Trump happened when he basically dismissed the Epstein situation, correct?
Yes.
Mine was when he went on with Megyn Kelly, and I didn't completely flip because, as I say, my sense of things may not always be accurate, right? It's just my gut feeling. But when I really started to go, wait a minute, something doesn't make sense here, was when the Republican debates were going on for the 2024 presidential election. He went on with Tucker Carlson and said he thought a civil war was possible. Shortly thereafter, he goes on with Megyn Kelly. Now, I was at a rally for Donald Trump in Valdosta, Georgia on December 5th of 2020. In that was after he had lost the election and they were going to appeal it. January 6th had not happened yet. And we're in the crowd and he is beginning to speak about COVID. And the crowd started chanting "Fire Fauci" so loud, Trish, that he had to back away from the microphone, kind of recognize what was being chanted. I mean, it was deafening. The whole crowd was screaming "Fire Fauci" as loud as they could. And he comes back to the microphone. He says, "I'll take that into consideration." Everybody starts to calm down a little bit and he continues on. Then when he has this conversation with Megyn Kelly, she's doing an interview of Donald Trump. She brings up, well, on January 19th of 2021, the day before you leave office, your White House issues a statement where you're giving medals of commendation to the Warp Speed team. And she goes, and you know that your supporters are not fans of Dr. Fauci. And he goes, well, that didn't come from me. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Now the next question, right, for any journalist, because Megyn Kelly is supposedly a Fox News, she's the real deal journalist, right? The next question is, well, then who did? Because it was coming from your desk from the White House on January 19th. That question never got asked again. It's never been brought up by anybody. But the Trump administration giving Fauci and the Warp Speed team medals of commendation, to me was inexcusable. I have somebody who's listening to the show right now. We were just talking the other day. 10 people in his life have died from complications from the vaccines. At least we assume, right? Because they're cancers, their heart problems, their autoimmune diseases, all these things that we now know were involved or were, I don't even know what the word for it is. They were associated with the COVID genetic therapies. Everybody's acting like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Everybody's acting like it didn't happen. And Donald Trump has not brought conclusion to that situation, which upended our world and had our kids wearing masks and people standing on dots and, plastic outfits and the whole thing. That was when it was for me. That's when I went, wait a minute, what is happening here? Because if you don't get to the bottom of COVID, which upended our entire lives for the better course of 2 years, it split families, it split coworkers, it split religion from people. My dad used to go to AA 2-3 times a week, shut down all of those meetings. He's a recovering alcoholic. He wanted to be in those meetings. Those were all shut down. Life has changed substantially from the beginning of COVID. And nobody even is talking about it anymore. It's like it didn't happen. And you have millions of people around the world, according to all of these studies, that are the data is almost absolute that these vaccinations killed millions of people around the world. How can that not be a story that anybody's covering? That's where it went wrong for me. Did you ever bring your mind to think what's going on here with this COVID situation? Why is Trump not making more of this story?
Yes, I did. I had hoped that when he got reelected that he would take different action than he's taken.
Me too.
That he would, go much stronger and he would really clear it out, the CDC, all of it, and actually ban the vaccine is what I had hoped. And he's done exactly the opposite. And he knows, he's got to know that millions have died because of this stupid vaccine that he continues to praise and act like it's a great success. It's disgusting. I mean, I know you mentioned that the gentleman knew 10 people. Well, I haven't counted them all, but I know a lot of people who are suffering right now and several who have already passed. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't want to admit he was wrong. Maybe that's it. That's awful shallow, but maybe that's it. It's a disgrace. And I thank God for Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, who's done incredible work on this.
When you go to D.C., because are you still spending time in D.C. or are you going back and forth to D.C. like you once did?
I haven't been in a while. It really just kind of disgusts me.
It kind of took the wind out of our sails, didn't it?
I'm sorry?
I said it took the wind out of our sails just a little bit.
It did. Well, I don't know what good I can do there. I really don't know what it is so far gone that I don't know what good can come of me going there. I think we all have to, in our communities, stand up and take control of our communities locally first, and then something can be done. But it's a complete disaster. We have no representation, zero. I do not have a representative. He will not speak to me. I do not have one. So
I remember talking to you about that. What's his name? What's the rep's name?
Randy Weber.
Randy Weber, right?
Yeah.
So we have the same thing going on, Trish. That's why I wanted to have you on, because I want to hash this out for people. I'm doing a show that is local, and I talk about local, state, national, and international politics. And what I try to weave in is how it's all working together. And I try to get people on from other states so that they can see you're from Texas, right? So I would imagine in Texas, you're for the former attorney general to be the next governor of, or is he running for Senate or governor? I forget. I think he's running for Senate. Yeah.
John Cornyn's spot. Yeah.
Yeah. And you would, what's the attorney general's name? I can't think of it.
Ken Paxton.
Ken Paxton. I think you're a Ken Paxton fan, I'd guess, based on Ken Paxton's background. And then you have John Cornyn, who's just another Republican rhino. Paxton, he did an interview where he said that he told Donald Trump that if he did not begin to take hold of the elections, that the elections were going to be stolen in Texas, and that would shift the entire country blue forever. It would never come back. And he, in the conversation, I think he's still aligned with Trump a little bit, but he basically made the comment that Trump just dismissed it like it was not that big of a deal to him. And it just blew my mind. I'm like, well, if you turn Texas blue, the way the electoral map works right now, that's the end of any Republican thought, any conservative thought, any libertarian thought. It's all gone.
Yep. It's over if that happens. Absolutely. And there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of interest in fixing it around here. There really doesn't.
Same here. It's the same thing going on in Missouri. You can point it out to your blue in the face and say, listen, here's the corruption. Here's what they're doing. Here's how they have it structured. Here's the processes they're using. Here's the media. Here's how everything is working. And very few people seem to care. Do you have any understanding after all this time why people are so apathetic? Are they just waiting for the world to come to an end, or did they not care? What is going on?
I think they're in denial. I think it's really too hard for some people to to grasp, because it is, I mean, if you really look at it, it is a horrible thing that's going on. I mean, our country is being destroyed. We are in deep, deep trouble. We're in deep, deep debt, and we are at war when we don't need to be. You know, there's so many terrible things going on, and there's been such a betrayal that I think a lot of people just can't face it. So and they don't want to be wrong about the decision that they made. It's not fun to admit that, hey, this guy's not who I thought he was. He's not the guy I thought he was. And rather than sit silently and pretend he is, I can't do that. But a lot of people can, apparently. That's what I can think.
That's exactly what I think is going on. I think people are so invested. We had a hypnotist on yesterday. I don't know if you got to see the show. We had a hypnotist on yesterday, and he explained how the subconscious mind can be triggered. And he said it's through repetition and and being able to control the narrative and what people are thinking about and talking about. And I really believe that's what's going on in this country. If you go into Fox News or CNN, they create these narratives and they drive them home all day long. And then people start to talk about them. They control the narrative. Therefore, they control what you're talking about. Therefore, they're controlling your mind. And I really believe that's what's happening, because everybody is split. Everybody's apathetic. Nobody wants to organize. Nobody wants to do anything. All of us out there that are killing ourselves to get the message out, petitioning our government, you get very little help. A buddy of mine said, Trish, you'll like this. He said, the truth is severely underfunded. He told me that when I first got into radio and podcasting. He said, if you want to get in the corporate world and you want to just tell all the lies and look into the camera and just speak the corporate line, you'll find money everywhere. But if you want to tell people the truth as to what is happening, or at least get them to contemplate a different opinion, there's no money in it.
No, I see that. I can absolutely see that. And it's sad. I hope people will wake up, and I do think that they will, but I just worry that it's going to be a little too late, unfortunately. We have a lot of issues that we need to be addressing right now, and we're not. And the last thing we need to do is be in a war that brings no benefit to us.
Couldn't agree more. The last question for you, and then I'll let you get on with your day. What about this James Tallarico down there in Texas? Does he have a chance to win in Texas? Let's say that the elections are being manipulated, or just maybe he wins because he's popular. What do you feel about the situation with James Tallarico down there? Is he have a chance?
I don't think he's popular, but he could have a chance because our elections are not secure. So I don't know what could happen there. I really don't. I don't believe he would win in a legitimate situation, but I don't know that we have a legitimate situation.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. Trisha Hope, great to see you. I'm going to be in touch with you. I got a lot to talk about with you. I just think you're an amazing person. If people knew how much energy you put into Donald Trump for 8, 9, 10 years, it was pretty much daily. And I just, you came to the same conclusion as me. Something's not right here, and we need to start talking about it. So great to see you. And we'll talk to you again soon. Trisha Hope, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. What a great lady. I'm telling you, what a great, great lady she is. I have been following her from the very beginning of her plight with Donald Trump all the way back to 2016. And it's what's frustrating to people that think we're anti-Trump or we're working against Israel or all this other stuff. We had the same intentions as everybody else. We came to Donald Trump day one. I was on the Donald Trump train when he came down the escalator. I've been on the Donald Trump train from that point forward. But I think different than a lot of people that are following Donald Trump now, we were glued to every word. We know what he said. We understood what he was saying. We made excuses time and time again. And then there gets to a point where I don't know that I can make any excuses with a straight face anymore for what's going on. I can't make an excuse for not answering COVID. I can't make an excuse for that. I mean, when you have friends and family members die, I was saying earlier, my stepdaughter, beautiful young girl, 25 years old, she's had stomach issues since it happened. Now, was that something to do with COVID? I don't know. She didn't have them before. Now she has them subsequent to that. Her boyfriend at the time, when he took it, he ended up in the emergency room with both of his legs swollen up purple for months on end before he was able to recover. That was right after the shot. He was a perfectly healthy hockey player. This doesn't happen to healthy people. As soon as he takes the shot, within a few months, he's in the hospital with his legs swollen up. These things are evil. This is just an evil situation that's going on. And not only that, I was listening to Buckley Carlson and Tucker Carlson's interview yesterday, which was fantastic. We'll play a couple clips of that here in just a bit. But he said that I think 1 million kids had that COVID vaccine put into their bodies, because I think these doctors have to have their kids vaccinated to get through medical school, something like that. He was putting it out there. Wow. They're basically forced to take it like we all were back in the day. And nobody's coming to their rescue. Nobody knows what that's going to do to their bodies for the rest of their lives. Nobody has any idea what these things are doing to them. And yet it's still on the schedule. You had Bobby Kennedy, the Maha movement, who railed against the COVID vaccines for the entire time that he was running for president. He gets wrapped up with Donald Trump, and now there's barely a word about what's going on with the vaccines. There's no public conversation. There's not clips every day about him denouncing them. He's not lining up with all these officials who disagree with the COVID vaccines being healthy and effective. It all just went bye-bye. Crazy. All right.
Crazy. I got to run to the restroom.
Okay, let's do this. Let's play a clip.
Yep.
We're going to take a comedy break, and then when we come back, we're going to jump right into the Franklin cover-up, the Paul Benassi, Johnny Gosh story. If you can get your friends to pay attention, this is one of the most, I'm going to blow your mind with the videos that we're going to show you, the story that we're going to tell you. It's so real, you're going to have a tough time going, well, that just doesn't make any sense. It is, to me, it's almost undeniable. I'll let you decide. We'll play the clips from America's Most Wanted. We'll play the Faith Daniels TV talk show, where they have an investigator involved. They have Paul Benassi on stage. They have, I believe, Johnny Gosh's mother on stage. It's going to absolutely blow your mind. We'll start back up in about 6 or 8 minutes. Let's take a break. Let's play. I love Norm Macdonald, so we'll do a little comedy break. Let's do Norm Macdonald. Let's do The View. Clip number 14. This is Norm Macdonald on The View. I thought it was hilarious. Where he
oh, dang. I don't have that. It looks like. Sorry. I guess I missed that one. I apologize.
You don't have 14?
Yeah, I don't have 14. I'm sorry.
Do you have 13?
I do.
Okay, these are clips of Norm Macdonald poking fun at Bill Clinton for assassinating or killing people. There you go. We'll be back in about 8 minutes.
Apologized to Bill Clinton for an election night commentary in which he called the president, quote, boring and uncreative. Admitted Brinkley, there was certainly nothing uncreative about the way you moved Vince Foster's body. President's a murderer. You didn't know that? The mysterious Indonesian accused of illegally raising millions for the Democratic Party. Earlier this week, Secret Service logs showed that Mr. Wong had visited the Clinton White House more than 60 times. But on Friday, administration spokesman revealed that there are actually 2 John Wongs. Furthermore, they stressed that the John Wong who visited the White House is a different man. He isn't the fundraiser. He's the guy who killed Vince Foster. Rejecting conspiracy theories that President Clinton killed Vince Foster, a report out this week from independent counsel Kenneth Starr has officially concluded that Vince Foster took his own life. Among other things, the report cites evidence that Foster was deeply depressed in the days leading up to his death. Although the report does concede Foster was deeply depressed because President Clinton was trying to murder him. On Capitol Hill this week, 17 Republican congressmen formally asked the House Judiciary Committee whether there is sufficient evidence to begin impeachment proceedings against President Clinton. In response, the president said, quote, hey, you know who would have the answer to that question? Vince Foster.
Okay, Norm, you're Canadian.
Yes, I am.
So what do you think of this whole presidential mess?
Well, I hope that the Democrats don't steal the election from the winner, you know, but who knows?
You like George Bush, don't you?
I love George Bush, man. He's a good man, decent, you know, none of this. He's, you know, he's not a liar, a crook, murderer, or anything like that. So it'd be good to get the. See, I think we should get the homicide out of the White House and get like a fresh start, because we don't want any more murderers.
I think we should just go on to the next question.
Oh.
Who are the murderers? Yeah.
Oh, Clinton, he murdered a guy.
Yeah, you know, we're not allowed to, you're not allowed to put out no accusations without.
That's a little too far.
That's the way it does
let's just go on to the next question.
Yeah.
This is not my week. What can I tell you?
Oh, it's not mine either, and I'm being very nice, okay? Be a good boy. Now, Norm.
Do you never hear that?
No. Listen, we don't need to talk
want to get
about
into
that.
this, and I don't want to hear it, and this is not the place to make those accusations, and you're supposed to be funny. Let's get on to the next question. So get with it.
There you go.
This is a live show.
Not for nothing, Norm, but you have been properly chastised by Barbara, so I'm now going to ask the next question.
I thought it was a matter of record.
Shut up. Shut up. Look, let me do this, okay?
I'll tell you what's a matter of record. You will not be invited back if you don't shut up. All right, now.
right, manslaughter.
Let's talk football.
Norm, did you ever hear the word?
The phone is ringing.
I certainly hope that's somebody calling to tell you to go home.
Oh, no.
Dude, you got a phone ringing.
Oh.
Answer the phone.
Hello? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. The thing is this. There, you know Matt Strauss?
Yeah, the producer.
The producer. He told me it would be funny. He said, like, why don't you carry a cell phone on and then let it ring and then pretend like there's a guy on it?
Is there anybody on it?
No, it's a thing. Pretend.
You know what, Norm? You're a dead man.
Here, you talk to him now.
You know what, Barbara? You know what you said about rage and work?
Give this man a plate of soup and tell him to shut up.
Norm,
All right, then. Let's see.
Norm.
What?
Okay, listen, Norm, listen. Not only have you annoyed us, but I've read that you have actually annoyed one of your idols. Who is that?
Oh, the great Bill Cosby.
Yeah, what'd you do?
Oh, my God, I love that guy. He's my hero, you know, just like you, maybe George or Bill Clinton would be your hero. I love.
There's no stopping you, is there?
No, you seem to like Bill Clinton.
They really, and this man leads into our show on Friday night.
I know.
It's all right, his career's over after this anyway. Who cares? Go ahead, Norm.
No, Bill Clinton, who's a great man, obviously. Well, you know, everybody has their opinions, right?
Are you moving along?
No,
You're
Bill
going to get to the point.
Cosby.
Bill Cosby.
Oh, God. Cosby.
What's in that coffee? What are you drinking in there?
Now, Bill Cosby is a great man, first of all. There has never been any accusations toward Bill Cosby about anything.
Will you just tell us what you did for Bill Cosby?
Oh, I met him. I opened for him at a club, and he was a great man, you know. He's my hero of all time. You know how funny Bill Cosby is.
Yeah, so get to the point. I'm going past menopause. Make the point. Let's go.
Not everything has a point.
We are learning that, okay?
All right, Norm, you want to finish the story, or shall I ask you the next thing?
Well, the Bill Cosby thing is this.
Dear God.
I met Bill Cosby. We're all fans of Bill Cosby, right, Barbara?
Yeah.
What? Yes. Why don't we talk about the millionaire?
Oh, yeah, you know what? Tonight, Norm and I...
please. I like Bill Cosby. Let's talk about the millionaire.
Norm MacDonald and I are on The Millionaire tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Well, tell him about that, how you thought he's dumb today. Where do you see him tonight? Come on, Norm. Tell him, Norm.
People always told me Hollywood was like incredibly liberal and biased, and I thought it was untrue. But
You want to talk about the millionaire?
Yes, I do.
You have 10 seconds to talk about the millionaire.
Don't tell how much
Don't tell him what I won?
No.
Oh.
You're not allowed to tell anything like that.
Well, what are you trying to ask him then?
I don't know.
Okay.
He doesn't answer anything anyway.
All right. Okay, so he's on The Millionaire tonight, and he's on Friday nights, and
on Monday, his taxes will be audited.
So he's on Friday nights at 9. He's on The Millionaire at 9. You can play along at home on Enhanced TV. You are a number. I have never met anything like you. We will be right back.
Wow.
How about that? It's a crazy story. If you were paying
I've seen shorter clips of that interview before.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy because he was talking about Bill Clinton being a murderer, and then he talks about this is, I believe, before, I think that was in the year 2000. That was that was a clip from The View, and he talks about Bill Cosby, who was supposedly drugging and then raping women while they were
on pops.
You're really loud. You got loud on me.
Oh,
did you hit something?
How about that? Can you hear me now?
That's better. Yeah, you were booming. I don't know why. All right, I want to get into this because I want to spend as much time as I can to walk through this slowly. The reason I want to tell the Franklin cover-up story is it opens people's mind up to a lawsuit that was won by the accuser. It has very powerful people supporting the story. And let me just tell you who the people that support Paul Benassi are. Number one is a guy named DeCamp. Okay. John DeCamp was a state senator who had ties to Bill Colby, Okay, so let me just, I got to do this nice and slow because it's hard to follow. I know it so well, I can start rattling them off and I'll confuse everybody. The Franklin cover-up is a story about sex trafficking before you ever heard of Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, this story involves some of the most powerful people in our country, as outlined by a kid named Paul Benassi. Paul Benassi tells the story. If you didn't join us in the first half and you want to get into this just a little bit, let me just recap it for just a minute. Paul Benassi claims that he was trafficked through Boys Town. So it's, I guess, an orphanage where boys go when they're orphaned or something of this nature. Is that what Boys Town is? I've never really asked, but Boys Town is where this all began. And it was run through the Franklin Community Federal Savings and Loan. And the guy that was running that situation, the head person for this child trafficking operation, was a guy by the name of Larry King. Can we just show everybody what Larry King looks like? Larry King was a very prominent black Republican. He sang the national anthem at the RNC convention. So when I tie all this together for you, it's going to blow your mind. Just give him a load of the national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chair now recognizes Lawrence King, Jr., a member of the Nebraska delegation, for the singing of the national anthem.
Wow, feeling very patriotic now.
How about the hair?
I know. Yeah.
How about the hair on that guy? That's
Oh,
19,
yeah.
I think that's 84 when that was going down. So this is the guy that was the kingpin behind it, according to all of the stories that evolved in the book, The Franklin Cover-Up, that was written by John DeCamp. Okay, so this guy was a principal at the Franklin Savings and Loan. It's called the Franklin Savings and Loan, so it gets a little easier. Franklin Savings and Loan. He is the FBI starts to investigate because of money laundering, embezzlement, this kind of thing. And he is put out onto all of the television sets on the local news in Omaha, Nebraska. When his face starts to go out there and they're charging him with embezzlement, money laundering, whatever it was, at that point, these kids start calling up the television station saying, hey, that guy has been trafficking me. That guy's been trafficking me. And then all of these kids start calling in, right? Well, one of the kids, there were multiple, but one of the kids was Paul Benassi. Paul Benassi is a fascinating character because Paul Benassi, the day that Larry King was arrested, Paul Benassi was also arrested. So they threw him into a prison. He tells this, what at the time seemed like a crazy story, that he was being trafficked into Washington, D.C., to the Bush family. Barney Frank. Do you remember the name Barney Frank at all? Do you recognize that name?
Very familiar.
He was a gay House rep out of, openly gay House rep out of Massachusetts. Frank Dodd, the banking, right? Okay, so ultimately these things all tie together to where you go, well, that's just, who could possibly know that these things were going to happen? It seems very obvious that this is a true story. Paul Benassi claims that he watched sexual encounters with G.H.W. Bush with other children at parties in Washington, D.C. He claims that one of the handlers and one of the people that were breaking down these kids mentally was a guy by the name of Michael Aquino. You guys might want to look him up. Michael Aquino was a Satanist who was working at the NSA. If you go back to the 80s and 90s, Geraldo Rivera used to have Michael Aquino on his show, and he would try to explain how it was right because freedom of religion, he could be a Satanist and still be in some of the highest levels of surveillance in the intelligence agencies, NSA. That is who Michael Aquino is. A long story. We could get into Michael Aquino and do a whole show about him as well. So it's got Michael Aquino, a Satanist, involved. You've got a proud member of the Republican Party, the Black Republican leadership operation going on with Larry King. And then you have the child who really started this all, Paul Bonacci. Why don't we start with Paul Bonacci? Why don't we just start there with this clip so people get a sense of it? It is clip number 12. Now, what you're getting ready to watch is the beginning of the story, just to get you to where you go, wait a minute, this is possible. Rob's not crazy. He can't get caught up in these conspiracy theories. You're going to be able to determine for yourself. This is a producer, I believe, for the show America's Most Wanted. And John Walsh, if we remember John Walsh, if you remember the America's Most Wanted days, he was the anchor of it. His son had been killed by a serial killer. So now he does America's Most Wanted. And they start doing the story of the Franklin cover-up, and they bring in Paul Bonacci. Okay? So I want people to watch this. Paul Bonacci takes their film crew to a home out in the middle of nowhere in Colorado, where he claims that they were being trafficked, they were being tortured, they were being raped. And when the police or anybody came, they would stick them down into a hole underneath the house. So now he has to go find this hole with the producers. And that's how this story begins to develop on America's Most Wanted. It's kind of a long clip. If we want to pause it and talk about it, we will. Clip number 12.
When Paul Bonacci first surfaced, I needed some time before I could go to the prison and sit down and meet with him. But I could have strangled him. But I also knew that he had been forced to do it. He had been a victim also by the same people.
I don't have hatred for Paul at all.
Pause it.
I thought I would, and a lot of people want me to.
That's the lady on the screen is Johnny Gosch's mother. So the way this all ties together, Johnny Gosch, when he went missing, I think he was 12 years old, he goes missing. Johnny Gosch's mother starts this, she's trying to find her son. Johnny Gosch was the first child abduction where his face was on milk cartons. So if you were of age and you remember when kids went missing, you'd buy a gallon of milk or a quart of milk and you'd have a picture of a missing child on the milk cartons. Johnny Gosch was the first face of a missing child that appeared on milk cartons across America because of child abductions. This is the mother. She gets tied up in the Paul Bonacci case because Paul Bonacci claims that he was involved in the abduction of her son, Johnny Gosch. And that's where this story is going. So that is the mother of missing child, Johnny Gosch, never been found. But this is who the woman is, so you understand the story. Go ahead.
But I don't feel that.
The video can't pick up just how badly Noreen Gosch is shaking as she sees Paul Bonacci in the flesh for the first time. He fills out a consent form, not knowing who this woman is.
This is Johnny's mother. Mrs. Gosch wanted to talk to you.
Just tell me what happened, please.
I feel so bad about it because what they made me do.
It was a moment in time that I'll never forget. I was anxious, I was upset, but I was thankful to him for going out on a limb to share it. He didn't have to. He didn't get a better deal. He still had to serve his sentence. So I had to admire the young man for the courage to do that.
Bonacci drew a map of the plan, a replica of one drawn by the kidnappers. Noreen Gosch says this X marks the exact spot of the abduction. She says most people mistakenly believe it happened at the corner.
Why did they want Johnny? Everybody asks me that. I don't know the answer.
They wanted to get kids that weren't used, and they also like to get kids that were close to their families.
Why?
They like to hurt people.
Yeah, they did a good job of that.
This is a composite sketch of Emilio.
The mastermind of the plot gave Bonacci the job of chloroforming Johnny.
Is everything that you're telling me the truth about Johnny?
Yes. Absolutely.
For me, hearing all of this, it was just like my whole body seized up. I kept thinking, oh, I can't listen to any more, but I have to. I have to hear the rest of what he has to say. That they kept him tied and gagged a good share of the time, and that Paul was indeed the first one to molest him on film. The kidnappers took pictures of that to either advertise him for sale or in some way entice another pedophile to pay for services.
He talked about something about meditation, but I don't know what that meant, or yoga, or some kind of... Even when he said something about that he'd seen his mom do that or something, or she taught him how to do that.
I have never told the press that Johnny went with me to yoga classes. It wasn't relevant to his kidnapping. Did you ever see any marks or anything on Johnny's body?
When we got him in there, he had a birthmark on his chest, or something on his chest. It was looked like South America.
While information on Johnny's large chest birthmark was widely circulated, Bonassi described other markings which were never made public. A scar on Johnny's tongue. Noreen says he bit through his tongue after falling from a treehouse. A white scar on Johnny's leg just above the ankle. He'd received a burn after touching the hot tailpipe of his brother's motorcycle. Bonassi also described the stammer Johnny suffered when he was upset.
These are all things that start to fit a puzzle that we've known about for a long time, and these are important things. They might be little things, and they might not be big things to the police department, but it's forming a picture.
After viewing our unedited interview, West Des Moines police say Bonassi said little to prove that he had first-hand knowledge of the crime.
There is no way right now that you can say, I'm convinced and we got to go talk to him. You can't say that at this point.
I can't myself at this time, no.
I would have to think that after all the years and all the frustration and all the dead ends, what does it hurt to go and talk to him? I mean, why not do that? Kind of tends to that whole conspiracy theory type flavor that the whole thing has. Is why won't they? Why don't, I mean, just go out there and eliminate that as a possibility for once and for all, if you can do that.
And so investigators from this department went to Omaha. They did not interview Paul Bonacci, but they did interview his siblings. His siblings put him in Omaha at the time of the disappearance of Johnny Gosch. Now, we can only go on the information that was given to us, so that's information that says we shouldn't continue to go down the path of Paul Bonacci based on what his siblings are saying. And that's how we do it, is evaluate that evidence. So you can make a judgment on that. We'll stand by what we've done.
That is not the clip that I sent.
Really?
It's so bizarre. That is so cool. I want to get the America's Most Wanted. Maybe I'll find it at the next break. The America's Most Wanted is him going to this home. And
okay.
I think sometimes this has happened to us a couple
Sometimes you
times.
send me like a reposted clip. That's a clip of, it's someone reposted a clip and then they post another clip, and sometimes it's not the right clip that downloads because of that.
I got to find that clip. America's Most Wanted went after it, and I thought that's a good one too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that one. But the clip that blew my mind is when the producer said he told us where the kids were being held in a home out in Colorado, and it's this home out in the middle of nowhere. And he says that we were told we were put underneath the house when visitors came, and he shows them the hole underneath the house, and they had all kinds of kids' names, like their initials, carved into walls, and this kind of. It was just insane. That particular story. We'll find that. We'll either find that today or I'll get it for you tomorrow. There's so many stories to tell about this situation. It'll blow your mind. So that kind of gives you a situation to at least the basis of the entire conversation. Now I want to play just a little bit of John DeCamp. Okay, so we'll go bring in these characters. This story is going to take a little bit to develop, right? So we might talk about this. This might be a series where we talk about it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, who knows? But we're going to get people to recognize whether they believe or don't believe the story. I have looked at this a million different ways to Sunday and listened to the testimony. This goes back all the way into the 80s and 90s. I believe it. And I'm somebody who would be very skeptical of these type things. I just believe it. Ted Gunderson does a video online that you can watch where he interviews this kid for hours on end, and he puts on a whiteboard and just everywhere he was and who was there with him, just all along this whiteboard. It's just the craziest thing. It is hard to believe, I must admit, but either this kid's some kind of clairvoyant or he was involved in a situation that was very nefarious, to say the least. Let's get to John DeCamp. Now, let me explain who John DeCamp
We just got kicked off YouTube, by the way.
No way.
Yeah.
What's the reason for that?
We were kicked off your Facebook page earlier, but I was able to get the live stream back up. Just restarted it again and it went. And now we just got kicked off YouTube. My wife just texted me and I see someone in the chat said as well.
What would it be for, you think? That's not that's
They'll
from
tell
YouTube.
us.
Those
Yeah,
are
they'll
YouTube.
tell us. They'll tell us. It could be anything. It could be things we were talking about with Trisha earlier or anything like that. So we'll see. They'll give us a breakdown.
Man,
yeah,
we got to figure out how to speak freely in this country.
I know.
Yeah, we have to.
Rumble, that's why we have to stream to Rumble and X too, because those are the only two
I
platforms that'll never take us down.
guess Rumble and X are the two easiest. I apologize for, because people are watching on YouTube. That's where they're watching it from, and then all of a sudden they get the show. It just aggravates me. I don't understand.
If you're watching on YouTube and you like it because you can watch on the TV, I know that's what we talked about with a lot of people, Rob.
Yep.
Rumble has a TV app now. So you can download the Rumble app on your TV if you have a smart TV, and you can watch Rumble just like you could watch YouTube on TV as well, just to let everyone know.
I'm even more interested in the legalities of it all. As far as I can tell, this is a free country. I believe, right? I thought it was a free country. You laugh at that, but I thought it was. Maybe it's not. I thought it was a free country. And why would anybody want to kick us off for just having our ability to speak freely? And then I get into the politicians of this country. These platforms have to be free.
Mm-hmm.
You can spread your propaganda on Fox News and CNN all day long, and everybody knows that it's BS. Everybody that watches it knows that it's BS, and they can put their propaganda out all over the place. If we want to question these things, we get taken off these platforms one after another, and it aggravates me because you're trying to get a message out to as many people as you can. You take the risk, right? You spend your money, you build these programs, you do all of this work to get your message out to people, and you think you're putting them on platforms that would be amicable to free speech, and they're not. That's why I said they're controlled government organizations from top to bottom. And I think that is the reality of it. It's very frustrating. I don't know how many other content providers want to get out information and find these hurdles that they have to climb nonstop, but it is just infuriating over and over again. Facebook, I don't even think I told the audience. I put out a Facebook just to my Facebook friends and said, hey, look, this is what's going to be on the show tomorrow. And I tried to boost it. I wanted as many people to see it as possible. They wouldn't let me boost it. I said, I'm just telling people it's going to be on the show tomorrow. How can that be a bad thing?
I think they got you targeted because the stream never got taken down from the People's Lobby page on Facebook. It's still going from the beginning of the show. It was only on your Facebook page that it got taken down.
I went on the radio because I kept getting taken down from social media. That's why I went to the radio. I would never look to the radio. Why would I want to have to travel back and forth to St. Louis to work for a radio station, make very little money? I just said, listen, this is so frustrating that these platforms are taking me down that I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go and do radio because they can't take down the radio. But instead of taking me off of the radio, they just, because of the nature of the way radio works. And again, this is not finger pointing at the radio station at all. In fact, I love those people over there. I get why they did what they did. I understand it. But the bottom line is you're contained or you're going to cause problems for the business owners.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous. And then when you want to do it on your own, you can't even do it. They won't let you do it. You can't do it through their formats. And then when you try to do it on your own, they limit you on those as well.
Yeah, look at Alex Jones. He's, allegedly, he's saying that it's a conspiracy, that it's not really happening, but it seems that there is a court hearing that's happening about the Onion acquiring InfoWars. And I'm sure he doesn't want it, so he's going to push back against it. But there is, you can see that there's about to be a court case that's about to happen where they're going to be able to take over InfoWars. So he had to start Alex Jones Network now. And
it's maddening. It's maddening.
Yeah.
I guess we got to read through the fine print of what we can and can't talk about on YouTube. Yeah. Why would a free speech platform not allow you to talk about
anything with COVID, anything with January 6th? A lot of that stuff is going to be high alert for them. And sometimes they'll just put a label on it, and sometimes they'll take it down.
I just don't think they should have the right.
Oh yeah, I wish. Yeah, I wish that was the case. It's the thing I think that it comes back in a lot of legal cases is that they are a private company, so they can choose to do. It's just like when you walk into a private business.
Yeah, but they're not anymore. That's all BS.
That's what I
total
want
BS. It's
I want
total
that to
BS.
happen.
That would be like saying that the telephone companies own the means of communication. And if I want to say something that the telephone companies don't like, they can just turn off my phone because I'm saying something the telephone companies don't like. It's total. And I don't want to get pissed off again because it irritates me.
No, but that's what the young people want. We think that the tech, this is the new oligarchy is the tech bros.
Absolutely. That's why we bring it up all the time. This is what's going to happen when everything becomes digital. They're going to be able to stop your money if they don't like it. They're going to be able to stop you from communicating if they don't like what you're saying. They're going to be able to imprison you because they're going to be able to turn off your car if you're trying to travel somewhere. If they want to find you in any way, shape, or form, they have the flock cameras. They have the AI. They can compile all of this information. And as Tricia said, nobody seems to even notice or care. Nobody's paying attention to these things at all. And they're happening right before our very eyes. We fight against all of them, and yet it continues on and on and on and on. It should be illegal. Who should we get in touch with? Anybody in Missouri? No, Bob Onder, Rick Burleson, Eric Schmidt, Josh Hawley, and maybe they would allow us to talk to them. I don't know. They're kind of like royalty once they go to DC, and then they don't want to talk to anybody anymore because they're so important. And Wagner, maybe somebody of this nature from the state of Missouri might for 1 second take up the cause of their constituents and say, listen, how in the world can you get away with stifling free speech? This is the public square. Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok. This is the public square. You cannot. We're not doing anything explicit. If you want me not to curse, I'll buy that. If you want the
clips, they allow that. That's no problem.
They'll allow anything. They'll allow porn, but they won't allow you to talk about certain political things, and it just aggravates me to. I get
Donna
so
says
frustrated.
she knows Schmidt and Onder. So
Donna, if you can get me in touch with Eric Schmidt, I would like him to come on the show and explain to me why somebody isn't making sure that people have free speech on these platforms. They're not private institutions anymore. They're not private institutions. It is the public square. It's no different than your phone. Could you imagine that if you were on your phone, Ma Bell, let's say back in the 1980s, and you're on your phone and you're saying, boy, this government is terrible. They're coming after me for taxes that I don't really owe, and then your phone just goes dead. And you go, wait a minute, I was trying to have a conversation with my attorney. They go, well, you can't talk about that on the phone. I mean, this is a private industry. This is Ma Bell. You can't have that conversation anymore. It's absurd and ridiculous, and it's so frustrating. That's
why there needs to be something with it. I mean, we're conservatives, and so we say deregulation, but this is something where I'm a fan of some type of regulation coming in because, like you said, this is the public square.
This is how people communicate. This is how young people communicate. They're not watching TV.
There's a young guy that I know that is a influencer. He makes crazy content.
There we go. So we're back on YouTube.
Oh, yep. He's a crazy guy that, posts drinking videos and gambling videos. And he's kind of like one of those young, streamer guys. Well, he did something on his YouTube channel that wasn't really that crazy, but he just got kicked off and turned off like that. And he was making millions of dollars a month. And then all of a sudden he's turned off and can't make any money. And he was giving a lot of money away. That's what a lot of his videos were, is he'd go and give a single mom $100,000 or a new house or a new car and something like that. And just like that, his YouTube channel just got turned off. And
content creators should petition the government to have freedom of speech on these outlets. It is not a private outlet anymore. It's absurd that it is even being argued that these are private outlets anymore. This is the public square. This is where people get information. If you want to put disclaimers on it, if you want to say, hey, listen, they might be talking about X, Y, and Z, you determine whether you want to watch or not. This is the public square. This is the public square, and you should not be able to allow things to be taken down that you don't agree with or you don't think should be discussed in public. There's nothing that we're talking about at all. What we were just discussing was documentaries, television, TV talk shows, the whole thing. That's where we're getting the information from.
Than we are now, than here on the internet.
And all the people and us showing this on our show, the people that produced it would love to have that information put out there even further. Why would they care? They would love it. The only people that don't want us to do it are the people that own these platforms because they think information might spread, and then the people might go, hey, this is a bunch of BS going on here. We got to fix that. That's what they don't want to happen. Is it still legal to have an opinion? I don't even know. Is that still legal?
Is it?
I don't know. We got to check that out. Make sure it's still legal to have an opinion in America, and then I'll share my opinion that I think it's a bunch of BS that we can't have.
All right, we are back up on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, now I'll continue.
A human might have finally verified it. That's the problem.
What could we have possibly done? I mean, we're showing videos from YouTube. That's what we're showing.
Yeah. That's the problem with this, is that they rely on the AI bots to flag these things and take them down, and then they do human verification. And so that's a part of the problem, in my personal opinion.
All right. I'm gonna calm down.
I know. I don't want to get you worked up.
Well, now I'm off my mark, right? I was rolling. We were getting it done.
I know.
Now all of a sudden I got to start over again. Okay, let me get back to the Franklin cover-up.
I want to play the America Most Wanted clip. I just pulled it up on X.
Let me see which one you got. Play it real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me. It's a different way.
I'll know it right away because I watched it 3 times. I'm a freak. He's a super freak. That's it. That's the one. That's the one I want to show. Okay, now let me set it up.
All right,
okay?
1 second.
So
there we go.
So now we're back to where we wanted to be. Okay, so we showed this clip of. So this is Johnny Gosch's. I think this is the Johnny Gosch Paul Bonacci story. This might be just Paul Bonacci. And this one now I'm all tangled up. But the story continues where America's Most Wanted covers the Paul Bonacci story, and he's going to take them to a home where he says kids were being raped, held captive, and he shows them this home out in the middle of nowhere, right, in Colorado. And he says that when any company came, anybody that was coming that would be a problem for him, they would stick him in a hole underneath the house. And when the camera crew from America's Most Wanted goes underneath this house, you can see kids' names carved into the wood down underneath the house in this little hole. It's the craziest thing. Go ahead. America's Most Wanted. I think this is John Walsh and his producer.
Oh, sorry.
Surfaced and
Here we go.
said he helped kidnap Johnny. Bonacci claims that an organized ring of pedophiles abducts children and forces them into a life of child pornography and prostitution, and that it happened to him.
America's Most Wanted was focused on missing children because our host, John, had his son abducted and killed. And so we did a lot of stories about missing children. And as the anniversary approached of Johnny's abduction, it was one of those stories we wanted to look at.
Nobody had found Johnny, so any excuse is a good excuse to keep it in the light.
We didn't know who we were going after. And we had a missing child who'd been missing for 10 years. And the FBI was waving us off right from the very beginning, saying these are not credible witnesses. We don't believe this information is valid. So we went into it pretty skeptically, particularly when you have a character like Paul Bonacci, who was clearly suffering from multiple personality disorder, who had huge credibility issues, and who had been in prison.
These people, when they get a hold of young kids and stuff, you know, they force you to do things, and they photograph it, they film it. And the whole purpose for that is to either blackmail you into staying with them or to split your mind up so that you don't even remember who you are.
Paul Bonacci's a tough read. There were so many facts that he seemed to know that lots of people didn't know. And the Gosches were convinced that the only way Paul knew those facts was if he had talked to Johnny. Paul claims to have seen Johnny in 1986 on a trip to Colorado, where Johnny was being kept by a man called the Colonel.
I guess he tried to run away from it one time and they branded him.
We gave some airtime to Paul Bonacci's story. He talked about the branding. He talked about what were pretty amazing accusations. And then these kids started calling us. This one kid came forward named Jimmy, who had the brand and was telling these stories and confirming what Bonacci was talking about. We went to Colorado with Bonacci. You know, he said, I'll show you the house where they used to keep us. And he described this house with this secret underground chamber where they would hide the kids when the police would come. And there it was. So what happened here?
God. I remember this house being where they brought us. They kept us here and made sure that we couldn't leave, and I almost couldn't do it to even go near the house because I got up there and the memories flooded back of the last time I was here.
Before we went in the building, I described it. And there was a little grate. We pulled the grate off stuff and they looked under and they're like, oh no, there's the hole.
It's abandoned. We go underneath it, and sure enough, there's this chamber dug out under the house with kids' initials carved in the wood.
This is where they kept some of the kids hidden away out underneath here so that if anyone ever tried to come looking for them, they could run them underneath the house here.
So that there was this sense that we're really close, you know, something is going on here. But every time we found a clue, we ran into a brick wall. The owner of the house, which had been abandoned, was a former prison guard who disappeared. You know, the people who had composite drawings never became real people. We never had names. We never could go after them as individuals. We couldn't expose them and get them brought in for questioning. There's the things you think are true. There's the things you know are true. And then there are the things you can prove in court. And the only thing that matters is what can you prove in court. And we didn't have anything that we could prove in court. The Johnny Gosch case has haunted me, you know, in a way that nothing else that I encountered on America's Most Wanted has. And we encountered horrific crimes. If America's Most Wanted, with all of our resources, couldn't solve this case, then chances are no one would. And as I looked around, no one else was trying to solve the case.
Wow.
What's your take on that? Just your first initial, because John DeCamp is the one that puts it all together.
Mhm.
John DeCamp tells the story from start to finish, but I just, you know, the reason I want to play that clip is most people of my age remember America's Most Wanted. It was one of the most popular television shows in America at the time, and families used to sit down and watch America's Most Wanted. So it added credibility to the story when the producer comes on and says, this story has haunted me. We take him back to this house. There are kids' initials carved in this house that he described, you know, underneath it. So it kind of adds credibility. Now I want to get to, and I want to play these clips because we have more of a visual presentation now that we can put out there. And I think it's important to give the visual presentation. You'll get to hear it. So if you're just somebody who's moving around and you're listening on your phone or something of that nature, you'll be able to hear everything and visualize what is happening. But the next thing I want to play is the story of John DeCamp. John DeCamp does an interview with a reporter, and he walks through all of the things that tie these stories together. And I'm going to get you, this is it's like an hour, and I'll post this on my X site. So after the show, immediately, let me just make myself a note here. Immediately after the show, if you want to find these clips, and you can watch them in their entirety, we'll post this John DeCamp clip on @the_Robb_Carter on X, @the_Robb_Carter at X. Follow me on X, and we'll start putting these videos out so that these stories come to life for you. That was one of the things that was a little frustrating on the radio for me is, people would always say, well, how do I know what to believe? How do I know that clip's not AI? How do I know this? How do I know that? And I get that. I'd say, I understand. You know, I don't know why anybody would trust me. I'm just some guy that was selling shoes 5 years ago. And now here I am, you know, on having a radio show and a podcast. So I understood. I wasn't mad at anybody. But now we can show you where we're getting the information from. You can determine whether it's real or whether it's fake or whether I've cut clips short or this or that and the other. Now you can verify it in your own head. Because, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day, Isaiah is a very good friend of mine. He's an advertiser with me, and I'll let him tell the story if he desires. But he has been in trouble with the law because he has been questioning the FBI as to why they're not going after these people that are obviously involved in child trafficking, child rape. You have the WikiLeaks drops. You have all of this information. And I said, will you do me a favor? Will you list all of the people involved in the Pizzagate story that have passed away? And there's like 12 or 13 people that were young, that were involved in this. Musicians, people involved in our government, politicians, and just one after another dead who got close enough to the fire to talk about this child trafficking story. Then you see what happens with Jeffrey Epstein. You see how the story just goes away. Nobody can get any information. That seems to be how this all works. As soon as you get into a situation where the information might be public to where all of the major outlets would talk about it, and you have just that feeling down deep in your soul that now everybody in society recognizes it to be true, that's when it stops. And then there's this conspiracy all the time. It's almost like they let you know that it's happening. But just like the guy said, if you can't go to court and prove it, then there's always just this little doubt in the back of your head. Is it true? Is it not true? This kid gave so much information that to think that it's not true you would have to believe that he's clairvoyant. That's the only thing that those are the two options. He's clairvoyant or he had an insight as to what was happening. Again, he can't necessarily prove it, but he can prove a lot of things that nobody else would have any understanding of. And therefore it adds credibility to his story. All right, let's move on to this guy real fast because I love his interviews. This guy's name is John DeCamp. John DeCamp is the one who really brought this story to national prominence with his book called The Franklin Cover-Up. He gives all of the detail about the very beginning of his meeting with Paul Bonacci, all of the interviews, just brings everything to light. And then there was another guy who wrote a book that I read who wanted to dismiss it. He said this story was so ridiculous. My intent was to go and prove this story wrong. Big time reporter. I'll get his name. Maybe tomorrow I'll look it up. I listened to the book on audio, so I don't have the hardcover book. But he said that as he started to go through all of the information, not only did he believe that it was true, he found out more information. Are you aware of the Finders, Isaiah? Are you aware of the Finders story?
Mm-mm.
Maybe. The Finders story is these kids were all disheveled. They were young kids, and they looked like they hadn't had showered or bathed in a while. Police saw them with these two suspicious guys. They picked them up for questioning, and it led to a story called the Finders, which was these kids being trafficked through our own government. And the story was big down in Florida for just a little bit, and then it went away. But if you're a conspiracy theorist and you tie these things together, you start to see a common thread with all of this. He dug into those stories. He named names. He got information that the Franklin cover-up did not get, and perpetuated the story even further. And as he says, I expected to dismiss this case. My goal was to prove that the story wasn't true. Now I know it's true, and now I know a lot more people that were involved in it. So again, take what you want and believe what you want, but that's where I'm coming from. Here is John DeCamp. This is clip number 1. I'm going to play like the first few minutes of it. There are so many stories that he gets involved with. John DeCamp, once he realizes that Paul Bonassi's story in his mind is true, he gets involved with the mass school shooting in Colorado. What was the name of that school in Colorado? I went there right after it happened. Columbine,
yeah.
So he starts to investigate the effect that these mind-altering drugs have on kids, and he says that's what's going down. In this interview, at some point, either this one or I think it's this interview, he's asked about his election. And the woman who's asking him this question, this is in 2007, she goes, well, weren't you winning 60-40 in all of the polls? And he said, yeah. He goes, in all of the counties that were voted by hand, I won 60-40, but where all the machines were at, I lost all my ground in the this is before anybody's talking about machines. And he got beat by a guy named Chuck Hagel. If people don't know who Chuck Hagel is, Chuck Hagel was brought in to work in military intel under the Obama administration. It was one of the only Republicans that Obama brought into his administration. Chuck Hagel was invested in electronic voting machines, multiple of them that led up into the big one that Fox News settled with. They were all these electronic voting machines that they were involved with. He says that he won in all of the counties that were counted by hand. He was a national figure by that point. People in Nebraska loved him for getting this story out, but then he was beaten by Chuck Hagel in all of the counties that were done by machines. And he says that in 2007. Right?
Wow. I thought we had ethics commissions.
Yeah, there's a lot of ethics going on. Let's give this John DeCamp interview. And again, I'll post this. If you want to first like and share, continue to like and share. And then after the show, I'll post the videos on at the Robb Carter. We should post that a little bit later on. At the Robb Carter after the show, and you can go watch it for yourself if you're interested in the material. Let's do John DeCamp, clip number 1. We'll just play it. This is like an hour long, so we'll give you the first 10 or 12 minutes of it. We'll break it up and talk about it. Go ahead, Isaiah.
I'm honored today to begin by speaking Sunday, July 8th, 2007, with perhaps my number 1 hero, Nebraska Senator John DeCamp, because he has looked evil with the capital E, square in the eye, and he did not blink.
Because I didn't know any better. I didn't realize what I was getting into. That's stupid. And then when I got in so deep, I had to keep going.
I strongly urge people to read his book, The Franklin Cover-Up, and watch the movie Conspiracy of Silence, so you can better digest the information we're going to talk about today. Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm especially grateful for you to agree to being interviewed today, because it's just been barely a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks since you had major back surgery.
Oh, God, yes.
Can you tell us what you can about that?
Well, there was once something that you may remember called the Vietnam War, and silly little folk like me ended up there. I was a captain, infantry captain over in Vietnam, and I was assigned directly to Bill Colby he was officially deputy ambassador there, but he was technically head of the CIA over there. He created something called the Phoenix program, and I was assigned to help him develop and implement that. And one day I was rappelling with a team, And you know what rappelling is? You go down cliffs, real steep cliffs or mountains or whatever on
Do you
the
have
road.
any idea how far off the ground you were?
I think it was 40 to 50 feet.
Was it ground or was it rock?
I will tell you the truth, I didn't carefully examine it. It was hard and it hurt, and I had to be carried off. And so anyway.
And the
pain, the problems created then ended up with...
Because the rope broke, we didn't mention.
Yeah, well...
Or...
Was shot.
Was
but
shot
anyway, what happens so frequently is you do some damage at this point and it slowly shows up over the years. And back, in this case, destruction to the back that causes degeneration of the discs and all that. So this is the 5th operation I've had now in the last 5 years, and this was kind of like the ultimate and total one where I got the biggest scar you'll ever see in your life from right here down to you know where. And each individual disc or vertebrae, they put dead people's bones in and screws and bolts and
But it was live
plates.
bone tissue probably that can graft.
It was from dead people, that's all I know. At least I assume they were dead when they took them from them and put them in.
But not very long dead, probably.
Let's hope not.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what they did, and I'm hoping it works, but right now the way it feels, I don't think it is.
It's hurting like a...
It hurts like a, you know what.
Yeah.
Have you watched the news media this morning was the best example?
No.
Oh, you may have heard, I'm sure everybody heard about all the new information being released by the CIA.
Yes, but I thought it was just kind of...
No, this is the very things that Colby, you know, got fired for trying to get out by Kissinger when Ford became president.
Can you pause it there, Isaiah?
Got several stories on that to tell you when Colby and Kissinger and I were all together.
So he's aligned with, he was working for in Vietnam, Bill Colby.
Okay.
Do you know the story of William Colby by chance? Do you know Bill Colby? You know anything about him, Isaiah?
No, doesn't ring a bell to me.
Okay, Bill Colby was the director of the CIA. Bill Colby and him were friends. When John DeCamp tells the CIA director that he is friends with about the Franklin cover-up, Bill Colby says, you need to publish a book immediately because that you're not safe until that information is public. Once it's public, there's of no interest to you. So he rushes out, gets this book published, and then Bill Colby, who this guy John DeCamp is friends with, the CIA director, he dies in a kayak accident.
Oh,
and
man.
as his buddy says, John DeCamp says later on in this interview, there is no possible way in the world that would happen to Bill Colby. Bill Colby was one of the most meticulous people on the planet. He said that his TV was on, his breakfast was sitting there, and then all of a sudden he ends up in his home, and then which he would have cleaned up. He said, you just have to know Bill Colby to understand that this story is completely ridiculous. And then he ends up face down in the river in a kayaking accident because Bill Colby was starting to tell secrets about how the CIA was now our new government.
Yeah.
The CIA, there is no such thing as a government the way you think that you have it. It is now a CIA-run operation, and the politicians and everything else, even though I don't know if they know it or don't know it, the policy, the real policy that runs this country is run through our intelligence agencies. That's according to what John DeCamp said about his buddy Bill Colby, who they met during the Vietnam War. Okay, continue.
A lot of tragic deaths around the government.
A lot of tragic deaths. We're gonna do a podcast on that. I think that when you talk about the Soviet Union killing reporters and this and that and the other, wait till you find out what America's been up to. It'll absolutely blow your mind. The amount of people is just it's incredible. Think of Andrew Breitbart. I mean, that's another one that people know. He was having a dinner, walked across the street, and just collapsed dead. And then the guy that did the autopsy also died from poisoning. So I mean, you figure that one out. Yeah, there we go. Go ahead.
Paris at the Paris Peace Talk tables. But
and you were there.
Yep, sitting with Colbert and Kissinger. Anyway, this was after the Vietnam War, you know, and they were returning to memorialize and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the stuff coming out, you know, just like Colby was always telling me, and I hinted at some of it in my book about the assassinations and the CIA being out of control and being almost a government to itself, and Colby realizing that he had helped create this monster and had an obligation to try to correct it. And that's why he tried to go before the Senate and release what he came to be called the family jewels, you know, the violations, the breakings of the law the CIA had done, and he was fired and shut up and everything. And that was his reason. And as you know, he was the one that literally inspired me, made me write the book.
Yes.
As a self-defense measure.
Right.
And that's what he was trying to do when he went before the U.S. Senate with that information. the CIA had become like a government unto itself, following no rules, accountable to anybody. And he realized that was dangerous for this country. And that's why he went before the Congress of the United States, which resulted in the church committee hearings and all those things.
Right.
You're probably too young to remember.
Well, Gary Hart was on that church committee.
And went before them and revealed what they called the family jewels, the family secrets, things they had done that crossed the line. Anyway, that was why he wanted me to write this book as a self-defense measure, but also to set the things in pace to maybe try to correct some of these things. Anyway, I'm blabbering too much.
No, please blabber. Is it true that
blabber.
Is it true that he was secretly hired to investigate Gary Caradori's death?
Oh yeah, that was a secret, but it didn't become much of a secret.
Okay, Gary Caradori, if you want to look him up, his last name is spelled Caradori. Gary Caradori. So Gary Caradori was one of the first private investigators looking into what Paul Bonacci was describing. They were trying to figure out whether it was true or not, and Gary Caradori was a private investigator. Gary Caradori, according to witnesses close to him, said that he'd gotten pictures. There was a photographer named Rusty Nelson, who was the photographer who got all of these politicians in compromising positions, right? So you didn't have phones back then. They had their own photographer. So if a politician or a public figure or a bank executive or a corporate executive or somebody in the entertainment world, somebody that could be compromised, they would catch them in situations with these kids. They'd find out who the pedophiles were. They'd catch them in position with these kids. They'd take pictures of it, and that would become their blackmail evidence. Okay. So Gary Caradori says now he's telling his friends that he has these pictures. He's in Chicago. I think he went there for a baseball game. And then he gets into a private plane to leave Chicago, I think to go back to Omaha, and his plane explodes in the air. Okay. So after he's telling friends on phone conversations and this and that and the other, that now he has pictures, he has proof of what's going down. His plane gets shot down in the air, and according to people involved in that situation that have testified later, or at least written books and so forth, the FBI immediately was on the scene. They collected all the evidence and everything that was on the plane with Gary Caradori and his 8-year-old son gone forever. Okay, so these are the stories that have developed around the Franklin cover-up.
A little bit something like Epstein, maybe.
Very Epstein-ish. That's why I said last night when I posted this, I said, if you understand the Franklin cover-up, if you understand it and you believe it, then Kathy O'Brien in her book, Transformation of America, begins to make sense. Kathy O'Brien in her book, Transformation of America, is so over-the-top insane that it's almost impossible to believe it. But then you start doing the research of the people that she says are involved, and you're like, well, all of these people made it into positions of power before she could have ever known. She could not have known that Dick Cheney was next in line with the Bush family. Nobody could have known that. We didn't even know when Dick Cheney was named as the vice president for W. Bush. Everybody went, Dick Cheney. Nobody was expecting Dick Cheney to be the person. She said it was called the Order of the Rose. These are secret societies, and he was in line. She named Chris Christopherson. I'm like, Chris Christopherson, the actor and singer Chris Christopherson. Did you look him up? He went to school at Oxford, one of my club schools. She talks about a guy named Boxcar Willie. Boxcar Willie came to fame from the Gong Show. Do you remember the Gong Show? Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay, so the Gong Show back in the 70s was this hugely, everybody watched the Gong Show. It was they would have 3 judges, and they'd have a big gong, and then they'd have somebody come out and try to entertain them, and then they'd score them on a scale of 1 to 10. But if they were terrible, somebody would get up and they'd smash that gong, and then it was over. Well, the host of the show was a guy named Chuck Barris. All right. Chuck Barris was the star of the show. He's this little guy, and he'd come out and he'd dance and he'd do all this kind of thing, and they'd play this music. He was kind of the star of the show. Well, later on, Chuck Barris was the lead figure in a movie that was called, I think it was called A Dangerous Mind or something of this nature, where the movie talks about Chuck Barris being a CIA hitman, right? Boxcar Willie gets his start from the Gong Show. He's named by Kathy O'Brien as being one of these entertainers that was involved in child trafficking and pedophilia. So if you tie all these things together, all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is kind of you can really tie a lot of pedophiles together, and they're all mentioned either through the Paul Bonacci story and or the Kathy O'Brien story, which, at least in my way of thinking, gives it credibility. Can carry on with
connected to our government.
And connected to our government and our major officials, entertainers, everything.
Any longer, because everybody came to know that in Nebraska. He was hired by the Senate.
Okay.
And like he told me, I don't know, if it's done right, in other words, eliminating somebody, you'll never be able to prove just who did it, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and so, but there's a lot of suspicious circumstances around his death.
Suspicious? Beyond suspicious. I'm sure. In my own mind, I have no doubt.
What do you know beyond
he was killed to shut him up?
The half-eaten meal left on his plate and the computer
first of all,
left on.
you got to know Bill Colby. He was a meticulous, perfect man. He wouldn't have a hair out of place. So here he is on his little vacation place out on Chesapeake Bay or whatever it is, and I'd been there with him before. We'd gone boating, and going boating with him was like not very exciting because everything had to be absolutely perfect. You know what I mean? So here, supposedly, he's by himself in his little cabin. He's eating his supper, got his TV on, and he gets up, leaves his house, supposedly, leaves his TV on, his food half-eaten, lights on, doors unlocked, wanders off and starts to go boating in the evening. No, not in 100 years. And then he disappears for 10 days, and then suddenly floats to the surface after half the world is looking for him, the CIA and everybody. Floats to the surface right there at the dock, 10 days later.
At the dock in front of his place?
Yeah, right, where he supposedly went down to get his boat. Anyway, floats to the dock, floats up, and looks like he just got out of the bathtub. It didn't have any,
No water in his lungs.
Anyway, I know from other sources, and someday I'll be writing about this too. He was done in to shut him up. He was talking too much and going to other places and trying to correct sins of the CIA, which he believed in totally. The CIA is necessary, but it had to have accountability too. Right. And it had become a monster out of control.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what you attempted to accomplish with the second edition of your book that was updated from the first?
Basically that, an update, new developments, new proofs, so on and so forth from the proof, whether it was some of the incidental events I'd been involved in. I represented the kids in Columbine, and I represented the grand jury on the Oklahoma bombing, and each one of these has a little more information, but that isn't what the book's about, of course. The book's about is Franklin cover-up, which is this network of people I couldn't believe existed in the world, and the whole reason I got involved was my stupidity. When all these stories started coming out in Nebraska on the streets from young people saying, oh, I know this man, Mr. Larry King, not the Larry King TV today, but a Larry King that was a black man in Nebraska, very prominent in the Republican Party. In fact, officially, he was called the fastest rising black star in the Republican Party, and he was the one that opened both the 84 and 88 Republican National Conventions, sang the national anthem, all that.
Could you please...
Had the biggest parties at the Republican conventions they've ever had. I know I was there. I was a delegate to the Republican National Convention.
The one, was it, what was that ranch in Dallas?
South Fork.
South Fork.
Yeah, that's where his party was, South Fork Ranch. If you remember the TV drama Dallas, that's where our party was. It was a heck of a party. He had Maureen Reagan draped all over him all night, wandering around like some kind of a huge blanket. Maureen Reagan, the president's daughter back then. Well, she still is, I guess.
Of course, now if you've seen or read the book, you know that Larry King was convicted. You successfully got $1 million judgment on behalf of Paul Benassi. But has he seen any actual money from that?
No. We have not been able to collect. He's been in prison. Well, he's out now. He got released finally, but I don't know whether we'll ever collect.
Well, now I thought he got out shortly after he was sent into prison, just so he could go to the Republican National Convention and sing the anthem again.
No, not to the best of my knowledge.
No, he's stayed in prison continuously.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for clearing
and
that.
he's been out for a couple years now.
So he was in from what, 80?
No, in the 90s. Sometime.
92, 91, 92.
I don't know the exact date.
So just recently?
Say 90. No, till maybe a year or two ago. Year and a half, whatever.
He got a little comeuppance.
He got off easy.
Yeah, he did. How did you become involved with exposing the Catholic diocese, the corruption with
That's good.
Well, this is a strange story because
I give up on other stuff.
believe it or not.
So that's the guy. And the reason I want to play that much of him is he is the one that wrote the book. He is the one that did all of the investigation. He's the one that picked up after Gary Caradori, the original investigator that was hired by the Nebraska Senate to cover the story to find out whether it was true or not. He believes that it's true because he's telling people in his life that he has all of the evidence. He has pictures. He's found the guy that was the photographer. And then shortly after that, before he goes public and before he goes before the Nebraska legislature, his plane blows up in the sky. Okay. My question with watching that, and I'm really talking to you, Isaiah, and we can look and see what the audience thinks. Does that look like a guy that is being honest to you? Do you sense that this is a guy that is a charlatan? Does he give you that vibe at all, or does it at least come off as though he believes what he's saying?
Oh, it definitely comes off genuine. And I mean, he's so too relaxed. I mean,
yeah,
you'd have to be, I don't know how many interviews you've watched, but I've watched a lot of cases and
Yes.
see people getting
I'm into that.
interviewed and maybe you're not, maybe you don't know in this interview if that's the guilty person, but you're watching their body language and everything. And he would have to be a sociopath, like the highest level of sociopath, if he's this relaxed and just kind of matter of fact and being able to tell this if he's lying, right? That he would have to be literally the highest level of sociopath for him to be not lying here or lying, right?
All right. I thought he was very believable. I've watched every interview that him, Paul Bonacci, the Gosh family, every single interview that's available to me. And I do it on DuckDuckGo. I do it on every search engine you can find. I check it out on Reddit. I look at all of the information and I believe it. I can't believe that I'm even saying that I believe this story. Do I believe every single word that he says in lockstep? I can't validate it. But the general idea that these kids were being trafficked to powerful people, once I started digging into it, I'm just like, well, how can this possibly be fake? This guy would have to be the greatest actor. I'll say this.
Yeah.
He believes it's true.
Yes.
Ted Gunderson, who ran the FBI of Los Angeles. If people don't know, Ted Gunderson, if you're into Alex Jones and this, he started talking to Ted Gunderson back in the day. Ted Gunderson ran the FBI office in Los Angeles with 1,000 people, 2,000 people reporting to him for 30 years. So we're talking about a very prominent FBI director out of Los Angeles. He studied it and he said it was absolutely true, no doubt about it. He said satanic pedophiles were running the country. That's what he said. And everybody forgot about it until we got to Pizzagate and Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody forgot about these stories. Everybody forgot about Kathy O'Brien and her book, Transformation of America. But if you go back in time and you just look at the sequence of events, you have the Franklin cover-up. First of all, you have all of the stuff that happened in the 60s. Okay. So the 60s is where everything culturally began to change if people are not aware of that. That is the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., John F. Kennedy Jr., Marilyn Monroe, Malcolm X, Dorothy Kilgallen, Martin Luther King, and on and on and on and on. There was a whole cultural revolution of assassination in the 60s. And then all of a sudden you have Nixon coming in the 70s. They replace him with the Deep Throat story, Woodward and Bernstein. And then from that point forward, you start to see culture slowly start to shift away. And it took time to get to where we're at now. But now when you talk about Jeffrey Epstein, everybody's like, yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of child trafficking going on and our politicians might be compromised. But what's for dinner, everybody?
Do you know what was started in 1966? The Church of Satan.
The Church of Satan. Really? I didn't know that. 1966?
1966. That's when the Church of Satan started.
Is that what's his name? LaVey
Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey. Yeah.
Anton LaVey started the Church of Satan. He adopted Aleister Crowley's ideologies, which Aleister Crowley is someone from the 1800s to 1947, ironically, was when he died. But yeah, he the whole ideology of Aleister Crowley is do what thou wilt. And that's
whatever you want.
Yeah, that's what the Church of Satan adopted. And then it was pushed into the culture. Do your own thing. Did you hear that ever in the back in those days? Do what you want. That's kind of the 60s more. 70s and 80s it changed a little bit, but in the 60s, do what you want, do what feels good. And that
peace and love, sex and love. That was our generation.
Love. So that was where that message came from, was directly from the Church of Satan.
Okay, now I got to give you one more. So I was talking to my buddy last night. I called him on the phone and I said, he knows about the Paul Bonacci story. In fact, he was driving around when I was working at News Talk radio station. So that was before I went to Real Talk. There was News Talk, and then I went to Real Talk. So he was driving around in his car, and he heard my show, and he's like, "Who is this guy that knows the Paul Bonacci story?" Because he had a YouTube, a very popular YouTube show called The Conspiracy Farm, and he heard me talking about it, and we became friends. And I know he knows a lot of these stories. He knows them better than I do. And I said, I got to find that. I said there was a talk show where Johnny Gosh's mother is on it with an investigator. They call Paul Bonacci, who's in prison at the time. And this is right at the very beginning of him beginning to, this story really starting to take shape on a national level. And I said, I can't find that. I went through every search engine. I can't find it. Make a long story short, I finally found it. Found it, and I want to play it. I didn't find the whole thing. I think there's part 1 and 2, but I want people to see it. So I did not get to watch all of this clip last night because I searched for it till about 11 o'clock. My eyes, when you look under your phone for a long time and your eyes start to just, I'm like, I gotta get some rest. So I finally, I clipped it. I saved it. I sent it to you, and I remember the entire video. So if it doesn't have pieces, we'll stop and pause it, and I'll bring it to your attention. But I want people to see it. I want people to see these types of things because as you talk about news and you start to get into things that are called conspiratorial, and you drag people away from Fox News and you drag people away from CNN, and you start to explain how the platforms work, how corporate television begins to alter your perception of the world in a negative way, as we said yesterday with the hypnotist that we had on. Look at Fox News and what they do, and just think of how it works to everybody that you know that's above 60 who watches Fox News every day. If you're not looking for war, you're not patriotic. If you're against war, then you're unpatriotic. That's how it's sold. And if you don't believe that, if you're watching Fox News, just watch it every day and you tell me if you don't come to that conclusion. War is good, and you have to fall in love with war. And once they sell you on the war, then that means you're patriotic, and they can spread that flag. If you're anti-war, if you're like, I don't like the war, I don't think we need to be in this war, this is an unjust war, this is not good for the people of America, I don't want to spend any more money in Middle East entanglements, I don't want to start war, I don't want to be aggressive with my wars, I don't believe what the government is telling us, they label you as unpatriotic. That's a fact.
You hate the military, apparently.
Let me get my it's a fact, Jack. Hang on.
It's a fact, Jack.
Okay, here we go. We'll do it like this. If you're on, I got to do this in real time so people will like it. Okay. So if you are watching Fox News, you'll start to notice that if you are pro-war, that means you're patriotic. If you don't like war, if you're anti-war, if you say this war is unjust or Iran might not have nuclear weapons and we might want to go there for oil or to control the Straits of Hormuz, if you think that is the reason we went to war, not necessarily liberating their people and to stop a nuclear attack on America, then you're considered unpatriotic. That is a fact.
That's the fact, Jack! That's a fact, Jack!
I love that. I don't know
That's
why.
a fact, Jack. Clip that. AI, listen and clip that.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. That's how we're going to do the AI clips in the short term. All right, let's get to this. So this woman's name is Faith Daniels. Faith Daniels did a talk show. Must have been local, I'm guessing. Must have been a local talk show. And she has on stage a private investigator who interviewed, I guess is the best way to put it, interrogated, that's the word I'm looking for, interrogated Paul Bonacci. And he was trying to figure out whether Paul Bonacci was telling the truth when he said that he knew Johnny Gosch. Now, Johnny Gosch, if we go back to the beginning, Johnny Gosch is was the first child whose face was on milk cartons because he'd been abducted. They couldn't find him. Johnny Gosch was a huge story at the time out of Des Moines, Iowa. And now the mother is hearing that this kid in prison, Paul Bonacci, has information about her son that has been missing for years. Okay. They hire a private investigator. The private investigator goes to interview. Now he knows all about Johnny Gosch. He knows everything about Johnny Gosch. Now he goes to interview Paul Bonacci, and this is the story that plays out. Paul Bonacci is going to come in on the phone. You're going to hear the conversation between the two. And all I ask of the audience is, do you think this is true? Do you believe this story to be true? Because if you do, then it opens up the story behind Jeffrey Epstein. And it's why we never have peace in our society. If it is true that satanic pedophiles are controlling and orchestrating the activities in America and around the world, then that would certainly lend credibility to these stories, because that's exactly what they were saying all the way back in the 1980s, 1990s, and onward. Here is Faith Daniels. This is her talk show. And again, you're going to see an investigator, Johnny Gosch's mother, and then eventually Paul Bonacci comes into the equation. Check it out. Clip number 11.
Awesome.
Do you believe Paul's information?
Because he's telling the truth, simply put. I've been working with Paul for 2 years and following up his information, following up the leads that he has provided, the personal knowledge that he has given. Not once in 2 years have I been able to prove him to be other than truthful. I've located other people. I've located other people involved in this case that Paul has provided information on. He knows too many things, personal things about Johnny, that even I did not know when I went into this case for the Goshes. He knew things that took place that morning. He knew about the photograph that had been taken of Johnny 2 weeks before he was abducted. Nobody knew the photograph had ever been taken. Not only did he tell us about the photograph, he described it, and the background that was in the photograph matched perfectly the information that we have on the photograph.
Pretty remarkable, too, that he knew about the writing on the wall in the restaurant.
Yes. What's amazing about that little feature there is that that information about the restaurant and the wall with the writing on it didn't even come from Paul. It came from some, I believe, former neighbors of John and Noreen Gosh that were out there on vacation, saw it, remembered, and called the Gosh family. They, in turn, called me. On my next trip out, I saw the restaurant. I took those photographs of the wall. When I came back, I visited with Paul. I did not show him the writing on the wall, did not even tell him what was there. I simply showed him a photograph of the exterior of the restaurant. Once he saw the exterior, he told me what kind of restaurant it is, the unique features of the restaurant, which is very unique, and then proceeded to tell me about the fact they had been painting their fingernails that day. They were being made fun of, so they went to the restroom, and the end result was the writing on the wall. The interesting fact of the whole thing is the writing on the wall is in fact put on with dark red fingernail polish, a maroon type red. In Paul's description of what took place, they were using fingernail polish, dark red maroon type. Paul did not know I'd ever seen that restaurant or seen the wall.
Paul, we've heard some pretty amazing information that you have that would lead everyone here to believe that you do in fact know information about the disappearance of Johnny Gosh. In your mind, what can you tell us that would prove to us that you know what happened? What's the most convincing piece of evidence?
I don't really know because nobody's ever told me if anything I've ever said has been true. Nobody's ever told me that anything I've ever told them about, like the writing on the wall or the scar that Johnny had and stuff, nobody's ever told me if any of that stuff was ever true. So nobody's ever confirmed to me anything that I've ever said.
Roy just said it here, and so did Mrs. Gosh.
I have never confirmed anything he's ever said to me. I have tape recorded every session with him, which is over 300 hours. I've never once told him if he's right or wrong. He's hearing it for the first time today.
How does it make you feel, Paul, to know that you were right and that they believe you?
Makes me know that telling the truth, telling the truth can be checked out, but if I was lying, there's no way that they would ever be able to have gotten anything that they've gotten.
All right, let me get to a commercial break and we'll come back and continue our talk about the disappearance of Johnny Gosh. And we're back now. Roy, let me ask you, you've been talking to Paul Bonacci from behind bars for 2 years with such a convincing body of evidence. Why have authorities not ever interviewed this man?
2 reasons. 1, he's a convict in prison. And 2 is that 3 years ago he was charged with 3 counts of perjury to a grand jury. Those charges, by the way, were dropped. He was never convicted on those charges. Charges never were ever substantiated. That's it in a nutshell.
Does Paul have anything to gain by lying?
In fact, no. It has cost him. Because of his insistence on his story being true, his parole last year was denied.
Paul is now scheduled to go free next week.
Yes. He has served more time for his charges than anyone else in the state of Nebraska on similar charges.
Paul, are you aware that with this information you have provided that you could, if they all believe you, be arrested?
Yes.
Does that trouble you?
Yes.
But you're still willing to come forward?
I'm still willing to come forward because it's the right thing.
You have a question here?
Yes. Roy, I was wondering, were you hired by the Goshes, or are you a paid police officer in Iowa?
I am not a police officer. I have an organization called the Missing Youth Foundation. I have worked for the Goshes for a number of years, as well as other families. Hired, yes. Fee, no. There is no money involved. I do not charge for my services to families.
Do you have a question?
Yes. Why is it that the police does not believe Paul? Is it because the police have something that they did not follow through on?
Noreen, you have strong feelings on that, I bet.
The police have many things that they did not follow through on in our case. This is just one of them. And Roy more or less went over the reasons. Paul is a convict. He's in prison, so therefore they're just staying away from him at this point. This may all change next week when he goes free. We'll have to wait and see.
Your family over the years, as you have tried to follow up on leads, has received death threats?
Correct.
They have threatened your other children that they will take them as well?
Kill them.
Kill them. So every time you have gotten close to information, somebody has come forward to try to stop you?
Every time we get close to solving the case in terms of who done it, not finding Johnny, but the person that's guilty, that may go to prison for this, we receive death threats. We have lots of problems that occur, yes.
You have a question?
I was wondering about, from Paul, who is this they that he was referring to? They will brainwash him. They have done, threaten him.
A small group of people, approximately 6 individuals, 6 adults, who abduct children, who are into child pornography and child prostitution and child slavery.
You have a question here?
Yeah, I was wondering, why did he come forward with the truth now?
Paul, why did you come forward with the truth now?
I came forward with it about 2 years ago, and because of the MPD, I didn't know about this information until I had to find the personality that knew about what had happened, because I, as Paul, wasn't the one who was involved, but another personality.
Paul wasn't diagnosed until 2.5 years ago as a multiple personality disorder. He has over 100 personalities, and Paul was never co-conscious.
That's
Paul,
good.
I am holding in my hand here 2 letters that you received.
So I want to just clarify that just a little bit. So what they're describing is this multiple personality conversation. There's several documentaries. I happen to know a little bit about it from personal experience. Not that I have multiple personalities, but somebody in my life, I witnessed this. Have I ever told you about that, Isaiah? Have I ever told you these stories? Okay. Somebody in my life, I watched this up close and personal. So I believe it to be real because I've witnessed it myself. What they describe here is something called Project Monarch. Okay, like the monarch butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
And the story goes that they were testing on children in Nazi Germany. Everything goes back to Nazi Germany, I guess, but this is the way the story reads. And you can look up Project Monarch, and you can get a sense of what they're talking about. So apparently, Project Monarch was a military operation along with, I guess, our intelligence operations. And what they were doing in Nazi Germany, and then it came over to America, was the sexual torture. This gets a little dark, but I just want to explain the story, and then we'll jump on to something else. I don't like to get this dark, but it's the sexual torture of children between the ages of 1 and 7. And they claim that the sexual torture of children between the ages of 1 and 7 is so horrific to the child that in order to deal with it, they just their mind breaks. And when their mind breaks, it opens up another portion of their brain, which becomes another character in their life. And through hypnosis and through people that actually know how to, find these other personalities, you can find these other personalities in somebody's mind. What they said they wanted to do it for is almost like the maturing candidate idea. They would break the child's mind. They'd be able to program it, and they'd be able to use these people in times of war or espionage, what have you. And they'd be able to then, under hypnosis or under drugs or what have you, they'd be able to bring back those memories. That's what they say happened to Paul Benassi. If you watch the interviews that he does with the FBI guy, Ted Gunderson, you'll see where he's got a whiteboard in one of them. He's got a whiteboard and he's just going through everything off the top of his mind that happened. And again, I'm not sure whether it is a believable story. It's just that I've seen so much of it that my gut feeling is this kid is telling the truth or believes that he's telling the truth, right? Have you ever met a liar that's so good that they believe their stories and you believe it because they believe it? It doesn't mean it's reality, but you believe it because they believe it. That's the kind of I am with this guy. And the reason it adds credibility is when I watch him, he seems very credible. When I watch John DeCamp, he seems very credible. When I watch Ted Gunderson, he seems very credible. So these stories carry weight for me, primarily because you have a guy that ran the FBI out of Los Angeles for 30 years saying the story is absolutely true. You have John DeCamp, who was a very close friend of of Bill Colby, who ran the CIA, who died mysteriously for trying to get out information. And as John DeCamp says, it was the CIA director that ended up dead in the water right out in front of the dock of his home. That CIA director said, write the book, The Franklin Cover-Up, because if you don't get this book published and get it out, they're going to come for you. They don't want this information out, right? So he writes the book, and here we are with The Franklin Cover-Up. And I'm always curious how people take this information. I'll follow up on that story. I have a lot more clips. We'll weave a bunch of stories together. I don't want to, just take up the whole show with one.
I got some breaking news, actually.
Bit of information. Go ahead.
Yeah. So JD Vance was supposed to depart. And this is 15 minutes ago. This was just announced. JD Vance was supposed to depart today to Pakistan this morning to do negotiations for the Iran war. And his flight was canceled. It says that the U.S. is still in the dark on whether Iran will take part in fresh talks to end the war. And the expiration time, Central Time, is 6:50 p.m. tonight for the ceasefire to end. Israel is already posting that Lebanon has broken the ceasefire, even though they broke it first. And so they're also posting.
We can shoot at them, and if they shoot back at us, they broke the
exactly.
ceasefire. Right.
So this is all just happening within the last 15 minutes.
It's bananas. One of my buddies, he put on there, he said, I don't believe that Fox News, they say that sometimes war is necessary, and it's a buddy of mine that I've known since we were kids. I would respond to that. They've been saying that war is necessary every time the Republican Party says war is necessary since I started watching in 1999. So every time the Republican Party thinks a war is necessary, Fox News agrees with them. They never go, you know what? Republican Party is wrong. We don't need to be going into Syria. No. We should be out of Syria immediately. This is a ridiculous war. We're killing Christians. We're destroying their society. This is unjust. That's not how Fox News works. And I just asked my buddy Jeff to pay attention. If Fox News, right? If Fox News is in alignment with the Republican Party that wants to go to war every single time, never a time do they disagree. Every single time you're going to see Sean Hannity press for a war. Every time. There's never been any other time in the world where Fox News has disagreed with the Republican establishment that we need to go to war. Not ever once. So that's all I'm saying. They may couch it that way.
Did you guys watch Fox News between 2001 and 2004?
Right. I got to get to this though, because you're talking about JD Vance.
Yep.
Right. And I just give a different perspective because this guy's name is Morandi. He is American born, lived here till he was 13 years old. And he is now the spokesperson, apparently, on Western media for whoever's running Iran. I don't even know who's running it anymore. Whoever's running Iran is saying that they're not negotiating with the United States. They are making the rules. And if the United States doesn't want to follow those rules and follow those negotiations, then there's really no negotiation. They're not bending to the will of the American people. This is what's coming out of Iran's propaganda. Do I believe that? Not necessarily. I don't believe our propaganda either. So, as I say, you're always in a situation where you don't really know what's happening. And anybody that tells you that they know for certain what is happening is obviously a liar. How could you possibly think that you know what's going on in that situation when our government lies to us every single solitary day? Get your boosters, everyone. Get your boosters. You're going to kill grandma. Get those masks on your face. One is good, but two is better. Stand on the dots. If you don't think that they're lying to you, just remember back to COVID, because they lied the entire time. And it wasn't just them. It wasn't just the politicians. It was the Democrats and the Republicans. As I like to say, you can't get the Democrats and Republicans to agree that today is Tuesday, but they all believed that you needed to get vaccinated for COVID, which was a con job that they blamed on China when they built the infrastructure in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And the guy that they say moved it offshore into Wuhan, China, was the face of the COVID operation, Dr. Darth Fauci. And when you tie all that together, if you don't realize that it was all just one big scam and one big lie, then how else can you communicate with people? I don't know what else to say.
We got to find the Shake Shack clip. We got to play that sometime where they're eating Shake Shack on TV. Oh, just think about this when you're getting your vaccine. A nice.
Oh yeah.
Guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll find that. That you can find that easy. That was the governor of New York.
It just sticks with me so much because
how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, I watched it live on TV when he was doing it as it was happening, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm calling my buddy, who's the biggest conspiracy theorist I knew, and I'm like, can you believe this? And we were at a loss for words.
They were giving away donuts.
Yeah, and because my wife was starting to get forced also. I don't know if your wife went through this, but they were trying to force her to get all the vaccines.
Oh yeah, my wife went through it.
Yeah, and so
my wife and I'll tell you that story because I know you went through it, but just so we can get on the same page with something that we experienced. My wife is a nurse. She's in ICU. She's just, my wife is an amazing person, and she loves being a nurse. She loves to help people. I mean, can you imagine trying to take care of me, Isaiah? Good Lord, you're getting a little piece of it now, and we're just on for 3 hours. She's got 21 hours left of taking care of me, so you can only imagine the problems that she has.
I'm similar to you. My wife's, a saint.
You gotta have a saint, right? And so when we were going through the COVID thing, I think when it first started, and I said, honey, this is a scam. She is seeing people at the hospital that are very ill with these respiratory issues. And she says, their lungs are whiting out. What are you telling me this isn't real? I say, it's real, but it's only real because we're not treating these people properly, honey. I said, listen, these people could get a very powerful, what's the name of them? Prednisone shot. And I said, I think they would be fine. Now, there are some people that are 400 and 500 pounds that are way overweight and they're ill, and it's a whole different story. But I'm saying these are things that are treatable. We're not treating them. We're telling everybody, go sit at home for 2 hours with a respiratory cold that's just clogging up your lungs. You got mucus filling up your lungs as you sit at home for 2 weeks until you can go to the hospital. And then when you go to the hospital, they say, okay, here's what we're going to have to give you. We're going to have to give you remdesivir, and then we're going to have to put you on a ventilator, which, as we now know, was basically suffocating these people to death. And that's where the problem was beginning. And now I think most people, I think 80% of America now they might not want to recognize it to their friends that they argued with at the time because they were walking around with baseball. What I used to say, the COVID people that were really into it, they would wear football helmets, right?
Yeah.
Bubble wrap, flippers, and masks. Because in case it rained, they want to make sure they had the flippers on. You know what I mean?
Gosh,
that whole thing. And that's the way those people were. And they were hell bent on the idea that COVID was going to kill everybody. And if you didn't have a mask on 24 hours a day when you were taking a shower and making love to your wife, that you were going to kill everybody in your circle. That's the way they sold it.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure my wife had told me this. I think it was my wife. She's a doctor, for everyone who doesn't know, but having the mask makes it worse for you.
Of course.
And so,
obvious.
If you're sick and then you cover it
and you're breathing it in all day,
it's just recirculating and recirculating. She's like,
exactly. My point about the brainwashing. Yeah. I mean, you could literally explain that you're sick, right? Supposedly you're sick, you're breathing into a mask where it sticks to the mask, and then you're breathing it back in all day long. And they tried to convince you that was the healthy thing to do. It's just bizarre. All right, let's get to Miranda, okay? Because I want people to get the Iranian propaganda. So as you hear Donald Trump and this administration, and I'm not saying that either one of these are right or wrong, but as Donald Trump comes out with his information and says, okay, everything is great with the war, we're going to win this war. We have this woman, Kukinda, I think is her name. We'll play her tomorrow. I want to play her tomorrow because she's the one that says Donald Trump is playing 5D chess. He is trying to break away from the royal crown. Iran has always been kind of the middleman for the British crown, and now we're breaking away. And she's got these great stories. And to me, she looks like the perfect person to sell propaganda because she looks like a librarian from the 1980s with the short gray haircut, and she's very grandmotherly, and you'd never suspect that she was full of it. I don't even know if she's an AI bot. I know nothing about her, but she's convincing a lot of people that what she's saying is truthful. And it might be. It might be, but that doesn't explain COVID. Maybe she can explain to me how COVID went down. Right? If she can explain that to me, then I'll believe the rest of the stories. But if she hasn't figured out that COVID was a con job, it's very hard for me to believe her that Donald Trump is playing 8D chess to break away from the royal crown. But I digress.
5D chess or 5D BS?
5D chess or 5D BS? Which one do you believe? All right, here's Miranda. He goes on Piers Morgan. Again, this is a guy from Iran. He is the spokesperson for the Iranian, whoever's leading Iran, apparently. This is the guy that is the spokesperson for him. Again, I'm not saying that he's telling the truth. He could be a bot. I don't even know if this is a real person. Okay, that's how confused I am about everything. But he is saying that there is no way that the Iranian government is going to negotiate with America because America has double-crossed them over and over and over again. Here's the way he put it as he's getting into it with Piers Morgan on his show. Miranda is the Iranian propagandist, if you will, and he's on the Piers Morgan show. Here we go. Clip number 3.
My government does not help the Israeli regime carry out genocide. And you have never said that you do not accept ethno-supremacism. Because if you say you don't, that means you do not accept the legitimacy of the Israeli regime. Do you accept?
You have never accepted.
Do you accept?
You have never
I do not
accepted.
accept.
Hang on.
Tell me, do you reject ethno-supremacism? Do you believe that a regime that is based on ethno-supremacism is illegitimate or not?
Well, I don't exactly know what you mean. What do you mean?
Is a regime that is based on the concept of ethno-supremacism, is it legitimate or not?
Well, what I would repeat to you is what I've repeated to people about Israel for the last year. The Israeli government, not the people of Israel or the country, but its current government under Bibi Netanyahu has been doing a lot of things which I strongly disagree with. Yeah.
Do you reject a regime that accepts, that carries out a regime, not an administration, not a government, a regime that is based on ethno-supremacism?
Well, I literally last week...
That is why Hezbollah died.
Let me answer.
That's why people in Hezbollah died for the people of Gaza.
Fine. If you let me answer, only last week I attacked the Israeli government and Ben-Gvir in particular for the way they brought in a new law which would only kill Palestinians who they deemed terrorists, execute them with the death penalty, but not Israelis. Right? I thought that was outrageous and appalling and probably an example of what you're talking about.
You know, if you were talking about apartheid South Africa like this, or if anyone was, you would be attacking them. If anyone had given me the same answer when I said you accept a regime that's based on racial superiority or on racial preferences or hierarchy, you would have been totally aggressive and rejected it outright.
I've literally just told you. You didn't obviously watch it.
You didn't.
You obviously didn't watch it. I've literally just told you. I've literally just told you that last week I did exactly that.
About a law. That's a law. I'm talking about the regime itself. That law is only brought about because of the nature of the regime.
So what happens next?
Well, ultimately, Trump is going to have to recognize that he is not going to get at the negotiating table what he could not get on the battlefield. He lost the war. The Iranian people were able to stand up a joint war where the Trump regime, Netanyahu regime, and a coalition or proxies in the region along with them were assisting them, and they failed. So why should Iran submit to the United States? If the United States wants a peace agreement with Iran, then it has to be a balanced agreement. But if Trump thinks that he can impose his will like an emperor and an imperial power, well, the revolution 47 years ago put an end to that. That's what the revolution was about. And that's what the Iranians are going to continue to do. They're going to preserve their dignity and sovereignty. That's something that the United States, especially under Trump, is not used to seeing. But Iran is different from other countries.
Very interesting, right?
Yeah, very interesting.
What is your take, Isaiah? Because this is the argument that I continue to make. Sovereign countries, and I just ask every American citizen, if another country came in, let's say Joe Biden won 5 straight elections, and Joe Biden is the one running our country, and we're all sick of Joe Biden because everything is falling apart around us, and he's moved us into you have to have one. If you have more than 3 kids, one of them has to be a transgender, right? These are the new laws in America. Okay, these are the things that are going on. Would you want to take that on yourself, or would you want a foreign power that is under a different religion, that has a bigger military than yours, to come in and start bombing your bridges and your people and the infrastructure of your cities? Would you prefer that? Would you want Iran, for example, to come in and break us from the ties of Joe Biden? Or does that in your mind sound so absurd and ridiculous that you can't even fathom it? Because that is what we're asking our people to believe about the war in Iran. We're saying, you know what? Just like in Iraq, we're going to be treated as liberators, which, I bought into that at the time. And I look back and think, what a moron I was. Who in their right mind would think a foreign country was going to come in, somebody who has a different religion than the base of your country, that have these incredible military weapons and come in and start bombing your infrastructure and everything's blowing up around you. And you go, come on, as they said. I think Donald Trump was the one that said they love to hear the bombs. That means we're still coming. We're coming to save them. They love to hear the bombs. And I'm thinking, how could that possibly make any sense to anybody? Could you imagine you're sitting in your house or your office building and about 4 blocks away, you're boom, and everything blows up. You go, come on, bring them on. They're coming. Thank God. No, you'd be thinking, where the hell do I go to hide? Because my kids are getting ready to get blown up and I need to get underground or I need to get somewhere. That's what you'd be thinking. And that's what everybody in the world thinks.
Mm-hmm. I've been in situations like that. And
you saw it happen. Explain, tell them what you saw.
Yeah. So in Israel, I was there in 2014. I think it's like Operation Protective Edge or something is what it was called. And 3 Israeli teens, one of them was an American citizen, was kidnapped, killed by Palestinians, and then some religious Jews kidnapped a Palestinian, killed him, and they left him on the side of the road. That's like what started this war. And Hamas and Hezbollah are attacking Israel, and there's rockets blowing up everywhere. And yeah, you have like 5 seconds to think, okay, where do I need to go right now? There's rockets blowing up around me right now. In Israel, they are blessed enough. Not every country is blessed enough to have something like the Iron Dome. And so, not a lot of the rockets were hitting the ground, but they're still blowing up right above your head. It's pretty,
had to be intense.
Surreal. Very, very surreal. But
how did you handle it? Are you a calm person under that kind of pressure?
I'm very calm under pressure.
I get very focused when things are going crazy.
I pulled up on so many car accidents like that just happened, and I jump out and I'm, running and crazy and helping the people out and stuff like that until the police get there. And I don't know what it is in me, but just something flips on and
survival.
Survival.
Survival and the ability to say, I got to take care of business here. I can't rely on anybody else. My wife is that way. My wife is just this, she's just this woman when things get a little bit weird or something crazy is going on, razor focused. And she's like, I always say she's like a Girl Scout. When something's going down, if somebody breaks in the house, I'm hiding behind my wife. That's how it's going to go down. The Carter house. Right?
The only
honey, somebody's in the house. Get up, honey, get up, go check it out. See what's out there.
The only thing that I didn't like that Morandi was saying here is, and I don't know if this was the point he was trying to make, but it seemed just from Pierce's pushback, this was the point he was trying to make, was talking about ethno-superiority and then likening it to South Africa apartheid. That's an issue I have, even though I have issues with the Israeli government. I have an issue likening the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to the apartheid situation, because if you've really studied the apartheid situation, it's very, very different. Because if, in Israel, Arabs are allowed to live in Israel.
Right.
They are
and
allowed
work.
to. Yeah, and work and reside. I know Arabs that live in Israel that work there, have no problems.
And get along with the Jewish people.
Yeah, and so that's my problem with that statement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
That's why I called him a propagandist.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying what he's saying is true. I'm saying I don't know whether the American government's telling me the truth, and I don't know whether the Iranian government's telling the truth, but they're telling two polar opposite stories. That's all I'm saying.
Everything else, I think he was pretty. He's pretty spot
pretty measured,
on,
right? Pretty measured.
It's we didn't. I mean, I don't feel like we've won a war personally. I don't.
I feel like we lose wars when we start wars.
Yeah.
If you go back to the founding fathers, they did not like aggressive wars. They talked about it all the time because propaganda can lead you to believe there are boogeymen anywhere you want. And if you're making money off a war, which, remember what Mitch McConnell said? Does everybody remember Mitch McConnell?
Oh,
Mitch McConnell said that he did not understand why Americans were upset because we were providing military weaponry to Ukraine, and they were buying that military weaponry from the United States. He goes, it's a win-win for everybody. We're killing Russians, and our military manufacturers are making a bunch of money. He goes, it's a win-win. And I thought, well, that's just, maybe he's getting old and senile, but at least he told the truth for once.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
You've seen the videos of him, right?
Yeah. He's freezing up and the whole thing. All right, we got to play is Trump playing 5D chess or 5D BS? And I want to get into Tucker Carlson. So he had his brother on recently. You said that the son of Tucker Carlson just left the JD Vance campaign because if you remember, Tucker Carlson loved JD Vance. That's another thing that made me a little nervous because of JD Vance's ties to the Netflix story, Hillbilly Elegy, whatever it is. And then he's got the story with Palantir. And Palantir is something that makes me very nervous. And Palantir basically runs the Republican Party right now, it appears. So he leaves. Tucker Carlson's son leaves the JD Vance campaign. And then Tucker Carlson has his brother Buckley on recently, and there's several clips that I want to get to on his show. I thought it was really good. I thought that both of these guys are very
Ironically,
charming.
his son's name is the same name as his brother.
What's that?
I said, ironically, his son's name is the same name as his brother.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. Well, it's I got the same thing going on in my family. My uncle David named his son after me. So my dad's
That's pretty
brother named his son after me when I was 10 or 11 years old. We were very close, and he was taught me how to play basketball and that kind of thing. So yeah, so it's kind of the same situation.
Yeah.
Very odd. Okay, so let's get to Tucker Carlson and Buckley. All right. So first, let's start with the COVID conversation, and I just want people to tell me if they're listeners of the show and they disagree with me completely. A lot of people listen and disagree with what I have to say, and I love that. But I love you people more than the people that agree with me. I love the people that go, I'll at least entertain it. I mean, I disagree with them on Israel. I disagree with them about COVID. I disagree with them on war. I disagree on this. But it's a valid conversation that we can have amongst adults to find out what the truth is. Because over time, if I'm here every day and you're listening, one of us is going to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? On every topic, eventually somebody's going to be right. Eventually time is going to be the determinant of whether I'm right or you're right.
Time will tell, they say.
Time will tell. All right, let's do Tucker Carlson with Buckley. This is on the COVID situation, because if you remember, Candace Owens asked him about the COVID shots, and he gave a flimsy answer. I told you the story about Megyn Kelly asking him about Dr. Darth Fauci and the Medal of Commendation. All along the way, Donald Trump has perpetuated the COVID hysteria. He is the one that did that. Everybody goes, Rob, he didn't mandate it. I said, I know, he sold it. And then it was mandated by the next administration, but he sold it. He is the one that went out on the campaign trail and said, Operation Warp Speed, baby. As soon as you can, line up and get that, roll up your sleeves and get those vaccinations. This is what he was selling to people that were in lockstep with Donald Trump at the time. That's just the reality of it all. Okay. So here's how Tucker Carlson explains it. Clip number 4.
But Trump did, and encouraged everyone else to take it, and then never apologized, even when it became clear that the vax had killed hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And it's never really been studied in this country, but we can extrapolate and assume it killed people I know.
Millions.
So
I know young men now who took it who have myocarditis and other heart
for
problems,
sure.
weird cancers.
It was poison.
Yes.
Look at the cancer rates, look at the fertility rates, like everything about it was a bioweapon aimed at us.
Yes.
And Trump didn't apologize for that. I don't know, all the things that I've just ignored or forced myself to ignore, whatever. My flaws come out as I remember all of this, and my shame emerges, well-deserved shame. But anyway,
Trump is completely absent shame about it. He, to this day, will still talk about the success of Operation Warp Speed, which allowed these things to come to market, which allowed the...
You know what he said to me? I actually raised it with him because I'm so upset about it. It's just killed too many people, and it made too many women infertile, and it's just the most evil thing ever, and it's still on the schedule. And it's so immoral. It's hard to believe this is even happening. But he did exactly the same thing. Again, it's my fault for not being like, whoa, that's a red line. I can't cross it. But he did the same thing he did on the Iran war. When I talked about the Iran war, you say, well, like, this is hurting all these people. He's like, you don't believe in the polio vaccine? Like, that was a good vaccine, don't you think? It's like, I guess I believe in the polio. I don't know. I mean, but that's not what we're talking about. The polio vaccine is a totally different thing. I mean, I don't even know enough about it, even though we grew up next to the Salk Institute.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that have to do with it? You mentioned Iran. He's like, do you think they should have nuclear weapons? No, I don't think. Not for nuclear weapons in general, but it was a non sequitur designed to shut down the conversation.
And the same tactic that's been employed by his political adversaries his entire political life.
Exactly.
So it's like, really? You're going to misquote, you're going to misdirect, you're going to, yes, dishonest.
Construct a straw man.
Yes, there we go.
That's good.
Well, you're interested.
I just wonder how many people have had that happen to them. Right? Where you begin to change your focus on something and then you get painted with this broad brush, as he is describing there. Right? It's like with Israel. We talk about it all the time. If I say that I'm against Israeli policy, all of a sudden I'm an anti-Semite. And this is the way they sell it. This is what charlatans do to fool people into thinking a certain way about somebody, right? Rob is against the war with Iran. I'm against the war in Gaza. I don't think the American citizens want to give their money to create war in Gaza and or Iran with the situations that we're facing in America. Yet if I speak out against that, immediately the people that disagree call me an anti-Semite. Letters coming to the radio station. I've heard people say it, whisper around me. I've heard people say, that's the guy that thinks that's right. that kind of thing. And I'm like, what is going on around here? This is crazy. But this is the way they shape the argument for people. And I just wonder how many people see COVID as nothing more than a con job, or do they think that Donald Trump got misled by the people in the NIH and Dr. Fauci? Do they believe he got misled? Do people still believe that if Donald Trump hadn't closed down society and locked everybody up and stuck masks on their face and closed down our churches and kept the Walmart and Lowe's open, that we would have been locked out of society for 10 years? Do people still buy that?
Yeah.
Did you hear that argument back in the day, Isaiah?
Yeah,
well, he had to do it, Rob. I mean, they were going to lock down society for 10 years. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, you can't lock down society for 10 years because we're a republic. And every state had the determination as to whether they wanted to open up their society. And number two, they never had the right to close your society in the first place.
I remember when we were living in Florida during COVID, and the weekend they lifted the restrictions. My wife and I, you remember how hotels were super cheap during COVID?
Yeah, giving them away.
And so we got some like penthouse suite on the beach at Daytona Beach. We went there and we had our own, walkout area with all these chairs and stuff we could go to. And it was super cheap. I think it was like usually $600 or $700 a night. And we got it for $100 or $200 a night. And we go there and nothing's open. Daytona Bike Week is going on, but it's not really,
It's a big deal.
Yeah. And so it wasn't really as big, but people were starting to come in. And that next day they started opening businesses. We walk into an ice cream shop and the lady comes to us. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you. I've been begging for weeks to be able to work. And I'm so grateful that you guys are here. Thank you. She was just an employee. She wasn't the owner. Yeah. She was so grateful.
Well, businesses were dying.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh my god!"
Small businesses were getting crushed.
Yeah,
so my wife first recognized it. Isaiah, we went to a concert, and I said, my wife is working, right? So she's a nurse. She's not recognizing everything that's happening around her. She's going to work and she's working in the hospital every day, and she's got plenty of work to do because that was during the COVID operation, and you know how that was going down. So we went down to Tampa to see a concert. I think we were seeing Loverboy, Styx. And
Come Sail Away, right?
Come Sail Away. That's it. Great concert, by the way. I had a great time. But as I think people were barbecuing and having drinks. So there was, people, in the parking lot next to us. And this guy starts talking to me. And I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "New York." I said, "Oh my God." I go, "What's it like in New York now?" And through this conversation, he begins to tell us that his family had a pizza shop in their family for generations, is the way he put it. I don't know how long it is, but generations. They shut it down, closed the doors, and they could never open it again. They never were able to open up this pizza shop. And I said, "See there, honey?" I said, "These are the things that should make normal Americans very uncomfortable. You have a generational business that supported their kids, their families, their grandparents. It's supporting generations because they're making pizza that people want to buy in New York City. Gone forever.
Yep.
Gone forever because of COVID, because people just could not pay the bills. They couldn't survive. They had no customers. They couldn't do anything. But you know who did survive, oddly enough? Walmart survived. Target survived. Lowe's survived. Amazon went to the moon. All of the big corporations that I always say, listen, if you get involved with these big corporations and you don't pay attention to small business, then you're going to get that world at some point. You're going to get that world, that big, uncomfortable, gray, dark world of corporate life. That's what's coming your way if we do not protect small businesses. That's just the reality of it because of the buying power, right? When I used to sell to Walmart, and I didn't sell them. I was running a company where we sold Walmart directly. Walmart will fight you over a quarter and a half a penny on the product, right? So they have this narrowed down so much that Walmart has such buying power because of all the different goods that they buy. They work on a much lower margin. Well, if you're trying to sell something that competes with Walmart, you can't compete with that margin, or you can't make a living. I can't make $1 on every product and sell 100 million of that product, and now I've got $100 million.
Yeah,
I might be selling 1,000 a year, and if I only make $1 on each one, I only make $1,000. So I have to up my margins to compete with Walmart, which means it drags me out of business, and I can't compete. That's why I always tell people, be careful about wishing for a Walmart. Be very careful about wishing for a Walmart, especially when you're in small towns. You may think it's the greatest thing in the world, but what would be better is if you could have tax incentives for small businesses so that you can go buy your cheap clothing, you can buy your food, you can buy all your little gadgets from the hardware store, you can buy your plants, you can get your oil changes somewhere else. Everything that they give to you can be replaced by small business. It's just they have a more buying power, so they run all the small businesses in town out of business. It's not like it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, one of the guys listening right now, his mother used to work at the mall, and she would sew up ripped jeans and skirts and shirts. That's how she fed her family.
Yeah.
Well, she was just somebody who knew how to sew. So back in those days, people were a little less materialistic. If you had a hole in your jeans, you're like, I just get the hole fixed. I'll take it up to I won't say her name because he might not want me to. Just go up to the mall and they'll sew up her jeans, and away we go. And that's how she survived, and that's how she raised 2 kids on that living, sewing.
Yep.
You don't have that anymore. All that's gone. Everything of that life is gone.
That's what I want to do here where I live. That's one of the reasons I ran for office. Is I think that there's programs out there, micro grant programs that we could create to help people start businesses, things like that, that instead of, like you're saying, because that's a problem here that we have, is people want a Walmart. They want something.
Of course, they always do.
Because we can't, they have to leave town to buy socks. That's what everyone tells me.
That's right.
And instead of bringing something big like that, in my mind, it goes to, people need jobs. It's a lower income area. So why not create a situation to help these people start their own businesses?
That's right.
In the gaps that we're missing. Because if we can have someone start a laundromat, we can have someone start a couple boutique shops,
a hardware store.
A hardware store. Yeah.
Do you know
or something,
Yeah. Do you know the name Brannicky Hardware?
What's it called?
Brannicky?
No.
Brannicky Hardware has been around forever. It's in the St. Louis area. I love Brannicky Hardware. So it's on St. Charles Rock Road is the one that I used to go to all the time. But I'd much rather go there than Lowe's because I feel like I'm buying it from, and I do know the Brannicky family. Their boys played against mine playing baseball growing up. I want to buy from the Brannickys. I want to buy from them. I don't want to buy from Walmart. Every time I go to Walmart, I feel dirty when I come out of there. And I go to Walmart. I'm like everybody else. I go to Walmart on occasion. You can take a picture of me when I'm in there. I go to Walmart on occasion. But I wish we could go back to where everybody could start a small business. That small business might do $150,000, but the person could make $75,000, and they can live their life, and they're not constantly strained. I just think that was a much better.
15-minute cities. That's what
all
they're
those.
trying to do.
Yep, all those small businesses were much better. Okay, I got a couple more I want to play from this Tucker Carlson to get your opinion. The next one is about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is somebody that I want to get on the show. We've got somebody working on her to get on the show. Marjorie Taylor Greene, come on! This is my fleet of Marjorie. Cut this, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Come on now. I've been defending you as everybody's tried to slaughter you since you broke away from Donald Trump. I have stood by you. I think that you're saying the right things. I don't know what you're ultimately up to, but you're saying all the right. You tickle me right where I like to be tickled. Come on the Robb Carter Show. Explain to me what happened with you and Donald Trump. You were wearing the "Make America Great" hat at the inaugural. What was the address to the nation? Right. You were his biggest fan, and now you have a falling out. She describes some communication with Donald Trump that I think is almost unbelievable. She says that when she got on the phone with Donald Trump because she wanted to release the Epstein files, they got in such a back and forth. She said later when she called him that her kids were getting death threats. Have you heard this story yet, Isaiah? Yeah. Her kids were getting death threats. And when she's on the phone, and she says she has text messages to prove it, she said that Donald Trump told her, well, good, that's what you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah.
Your children are getting death threats. And according to her, Donald Trump said, well, that's what you get. All right. Here's the way Tucker Carlson explains it. Again, you can agree to disagree if you want to, but this is what they're saying. I'd like Donald Trump to come out and make a statement that I never said it. That'd be nice. Clip number 7, because this is not a good look. Clip number 7, Tucker Carlson talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene and her child getting death threats and how Donald Trump responded to that. Go for it.
On Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I think of all the elected members of Congress represents in sincere, hardworking fashion what it meant to be a not Trump fan, but a Trump lieutenant. I mean, this was someone who was inspired by Donald Trump and Donald Trump's program to leave her successful business, run for Congress, and thank God for her because she got there and discovered what a captured institution it is, how flawed the individuals there are, how hostile they are to the American people who put them there, and specifically the Republican voters who put them there. And then to see Trump turn on her and treat her the way that he treated her was, she's an individual and she's tough and she can handle it. But that kind of like repetitive, crazy disloyalty, and to treat someone who had actually put themselves to hard work to great effect, was unforgivable, I thought. That's when I really started.
She texted Trump and she said, my son is getting threats because I've disagreed with you on the Epstein files. And Trump responded to her by text message and said, he deserves it. It's your fault. People are threatening the kid's life. And Trump says, no. You brought this on him. It's on you.
That's disgusting.
That's good.
Talk about gaslighting.
Can you even believe that that is true? That's hard for me to believe that it's true. But when you say they're text messages, I would assume somebody's going to call her on that at some point because that's quite an accusation to make against the president. He doesn't come off that way to me.
Well, you've seen his Truth Social posts the last week, haven't you?
I don't pay much attention at all anymore. I know I'm terrible. Everybody's glued to him.
No,
I don't really
his rants they just get longer and longer and longer.
Now what's he ranting about? Not her.
I know. I mean, not her specifically, but he went on a rant about Tucker. He was gone on a rant about Candace, Megyn Kelly, the war, FISA. He keeps going on these long rants, and people are growing more and more concerned because. And then another claim that just came out is that when there was some type of operation going on, Trump wanted to use the nuclear codes, and General Kane had to stand up and say, no, we're not doing this. No, you need to leave the room. And they made Trump leave the room. So I don't know what's going on.
Now say that again. I missed the very beginning of that.
No, you're okay. So
he'd have to leave.
There was a military operation going on. Trump wanted to use the nuclear codes.
Okay.
This is a story that's out now, right?
Yeah, let's play it because I thought that's what you said, and I think I got that clip for you. I want people to hear what the story is. I don't know if this is on major network television or if this is something that we found just on social media ourselves, but it is Larry Johnson. What number do we have for Larry Johnson? I think he's 17? The very last. Yeah, this is the story. This is another one that's hard for me to believe the way my perception is of Donald Trump, but these are the stories that are out there for the world to hear. Check this out. This is former CIA guy. I think his name is Larry Johnson. He's on the Andrew Napolitano show. Check this out.
They recognize they've got some problems and they got to try to deal with it. And then there was a report out that they had an emergency meeting Saturday night. And apparently, one report coming out of that meeting at the White House is that Trump wanted to use the nuclear codes, and General Dan Kane stood up and said no. He invoked his privilege as the head of the military, so to speak. It was apparently quite a blow up. There are pictures of Kane coming out of that meeting with his head down to the ground. So, there's some very, very bizarre things going on in D.C.
Well, on Saturday night, excuse me, Larry, Trump.
Wow.
What's your take on that? Is that something you believe as well? Very hard for me to believe that.
Hard to believe it, but.
And the reason I think that, let me give you the propaganda angle, right? Because I look at how they would sell propaganda.
Yeah.
If I want to make Trump out to be a crazy person who wants to use nuclear weapons to scare Iran, I just have his detractors come out and say they had to make him leave the room because in your mind, if you're Iran, then he could just replace the person that wouldn't use the nuclear codes, right? So now I'm just going to replace that person. So it would be kind of a psychological war that his detractors, this guy Larry Johnson doesn't like Donald Trump, neither does this guy Scott Ritter, and they're all over social media right now. They would be able to go, this guy's crazy. He really wanted to use nuclear weapons, but the military wouldn't let him. What if he replaces these people in the military? And now you find out that this Kane guy who supposedly said no, now he's fired and we're bringing in Pete Hegseth, who I think would like to bomb everything, or at least that's the character that he's playing in this role that he's got going on in D.C. But you could see where that would be used for propaganda. Trump wanted to use the nuclear option. His military wouldn't let him, but this is the warpath that he's on. It's hard for me to believe that story. I don't know why it's hard for me to believe, but what's your take, Isaiah? If you had to guess?
Yeah. I mean, that's the hard thing is that when someone who's always against him comes out and saying something that's building a narrative, as you like to say, building a specific narrative that would continue to exacerbate a narrative that's already out there, which is that he's crazy and that he's getting out of control. That was already a narrative happening because of his rants and the whole thing where he attacks Tucker and Candace and Megyn Kelly, right? And so if you wanted to enhance that, this is the perfect type of story to put out there. And so that's my take. I could believe it's true just because of the nature of how things have gone recently. He's told us he's going to do so many things. He said he's not going to do so many things, and then he does those things he says he's not going to do, and he doesn't do the things he says he's going to do. And so
can I give you my opinion real fast?
Yeah.
I don't think Donald Trump has anything to do with anything. And that's why I don't spend an enormous amount of time on him, other than that it's fun to talk about, because it's the most interesting time as far as presidential politics that I can remember. I don't remember a time like this, but I don't believe that these people in our government really have a say on anything. And you can kind of understand how that would play out over time with intelligence agencies, with the media, with the bureaucracy that is in DC. I believe that presidents sell what they're supposed to be selling. They might be reactionary, like this happens, and now the president has to explain this to people, and then they get their script to try and explain it, because it wouldn't make any sense what is happening if Donald Trump were in control of everything that was going on. If you look at the guy that sold us what happened, this is what Tucker Carlson was saying. I got to play one more clip from Tucker Carlson here in a minute. It's where he apologizes. It is clip number 10. Just grab that for us. We'll run a little bit long here today. I think that these people that are presidents are, and a lot of people have said it. I'm not the first one to say it, but I noticed it before I heard other people talking about it. They basically say that this country is on cruise control, and it's really run by a couple different factions: the Federal Reserve and the bankers that control the Federal Reserve, the people that print the currency, which you could understand that, right? Because if you are able to mess with the currency, everything falls apart. So you gotta walk in lockstep with the people that print the money at some level, or you're going to be in big trouble. So the bankers and the intelligence agencies, they are the ones that are in control. For example, if you had a mafia, let's say that you become the president of the United States, Isaiah, right? But there's a mafia that meets with you every now and again, and they're factions of the intelligence agencies, and they say, listen, man, we know that you don't want to have any more wars in the Middle East. We've made deals with rebels all over the Middle East. We have agreements with leaders over there, banking institutions. We've already, this deal is settled. You know, this is going to happen with or without you. So, you know, if you want to come with us and sell it, you can. But if not, we're just going to figure out a way to impeach you. We've got you over here on camera doing this. We've been paying attention to this. We'll use our media to sell a narrative that everybody will believe, not just the right or the left, but everybody will begin to believe it. Now, all of a sudden, you're changing your tune on everything, right? Because now you're selling what they want you to sell, not what you originally wanted. That would explain the reversal of everything that Donald Trump does. You're not in control of what you want to do. I think the same thing happened to Bill Clinton. You know, I worked for somebody who was friendly with Bill Clinton, and he would tell me what a great guy Bill Clinton was. He goes, he's just the nicest guy. He's such a good dude. And I said, okay, you know, he kind of had that personality when he was the president, but still he seemed a little shady with the women. Right.
Yep.
And, but he came across as somebody that was a conservative Democrat at the time. That's the way he sold himself. Right. And then as time went on, you know, the Republicans didn't like Bill Clinton very much, right? He started the war with I forget what the war was. Why can't I think of it? I'll think of it later. Somebody might remind me. I can't think of the country that he started the war with when he was in office. But they end up doing things in the opposite fashion of what they run on. And a lot of times it might be that they're groomed to get into that position, or they think they're gonna play the game till they get in that position, then they're gonna do what they want to do. I just don't think the president has that much power. I don't think the people in Congress have that much power. I just don't think they have that much power. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. If something comes to my attention that changes my opinion, I'll let you know. I just do not think these people that run our country have the kind of power that we think they do. I think they are beholden to the banks and the intelligence agencies and the military and a global organization that's been in place for probably centuries that we don't quite understand. That would be my guess.
There's a new artist. He's a young guy. He's pretty liberal in his leaning, but he has a great song that I love listening to. It's called Heavy Foot, and it's just about the government, really.
Yep.
And there's a line in it that I'm going to read here. It says, "Do you see the man on the screen? Just a puppet, but you never see the strings. Calling it a war, not a genocide. Telling us it isn't what it seems. Man, that's a different kind of greed."
There you go.
Yeah. And I thought that line has always stuck out to me. No matter what he believes, you know, he's pretty left leaning.
Yep.
But I just thought that I listen to his song all the time just because, man, that just rings so true to me.
Look at Jim Brewer. We started the show with him. I said maybe we should start every show with Jim Brewer.
Seriously.
He says it's all scripted. It's scripted. Your politicians are scripted. Everything is scripted. And you can kind of see that when you watch testimony in the Senate or the House. Most of the time they're asking questions, they're looking down and they're reading from it. This is not something that they don't have this information, and God bless them. I don't think they possibly could, right? If you're trying to get 1,000 bills through, you don't have time to read all these bills. You're basically saying, okay, what questions should I ask this person? My staff, give me some questions to ask the person so I don't look stupid when I'm going through the committees. That's the way it almost has to be. That's why you got to pass. Man, Nancy Pelosi told us what was going on. We got to pass it to find out what's in it. How much more do you need to know? She was the Speaker of the House and she didn't know what was in a bill that she was trying to get passed. I mean, how much more information do people need to recognize before they start to go, wait a minute, maybe this whole thing is a little bit fraudulent. Maybe it's just kind of like a show trial, a show government.
Yep.
We never get what we want. We never get what we want out of anything. And if you're a politician trying to get elected, all you'd have to do is serve the interest of the people. They never serve the interest of the people. They get enriched. We get more angry. We flip it from Democrat to Republican back to Democrat, and nothing ever changes in our lives, really. The only thing that changes in our lives is we get bigger houses and more debt, which is what the bankers want. They want you to be in debt. So is life better with a 2-bedroom house and your family in there and it's a little bit cramped and you're enjoying your life? Or is it better with a 6-bedroom house where you're stressed out every single day of your life trying to afford it? Which one's better? Which one feels like you're enslaved and which one feels like you're free? We've gotten into a society where the bigger house, the nicer car, that is how you determine success. I fell into it. I'm just like everybody else. And the more money you make, God bless you, so long as you do it in the right way. I got no problem with it. I have a lot of very wealthy friends. I love them very much. But it can't be the driving factor with everything. That's how our society is now.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Let's play this from Tucker Carlson one more time because he apologizes, and I will leave the show on this. I want people to think about it. Tucker Carlson apologizes for getting people to support Donald Trump. And he kind of makes his case for it. And I wonder how many people feel this way or feel like Tucker Carlson is just an idiot or, he's working for Qatar or he's in the game with Donald Trump. As we've talked about Dr. Shiva's point of view, that they're all in this game together to keep us talking about them instead of talking about things that we can control on our own. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just trying to figure it out just like everybody else. But here is the way Tucker Carlson, so I think this is pretty much the way he started his show the other day. Go for it.
I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him, I campaigned for him. I mean, we're implicated in this for sure.
Yes.
It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now.
Yes.
So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. It was not intentional. That's all I'll say. But anyway, the question does present itself immediately. Like, what is this? Was this always the plan? You don't want to be a conspiracy nut, but like clearly there were signs of low character. We knew that.
Yes.
But it didn't. There are tons of people of low character who like outperform their character. It doesn't have to be
sort of the norm, actually, these days. I would say
I've outperformed my character a lot. I don't have especially high character, right? But you try your best. But what was this? Was this always the plan?
Looking back after the last year and a half, it seems like it kind of was, and it's easy. Well, you could get really deep about it and say, what was Butler? Like, how was it that and Ryan Ruth, I mean, he was subject to 2 legitimate assassination attempts. Have we ever gotten to the bottom? I know you've talked a lot about this, but have we ever gotten to the bottom of that?
I haven't talked a lot about it. I don't know the answer, but I know that those investigations have been stymied. Fact.
Yeah, stymied from the very top, from people who actually would have the power to get to the bottom of it.
And the motive.
Yes,
right. Yeah,
very much. So the enormous amount of money he got from Miriam Adelson now seems suspect to a lot of people at the time. But, there's a lot of money in politics. To run for president requires an enormous, Kathleen Camel-Toe went through $2 billion in 4 months. So, sure, there's an argument to be made that you get money from those who will give it to you. It's just the nature of that game. But it's still reprehensible and it's still a big question mark. Why would someone who has obvious and demonstrated allegiance to a foreign power give Donald Trump $250 million while he's running for president? I mean, how is that defensible? It's really not. If Russia had given a PAC for Trump, if the mayor of Moscow had somehow assembled an enormous amount of money and put it in a 501c3 for Trump's benefit, would that have been acceptable? Of course it wouldn't have been. So what does it's so basic, comes back to the money. Like, what did they get in return for that amount of investment? And it's clear.
I get
the reason I want to stop it there is that, isn't that a great question? Because everybody is trying to determine whether Tucker Carlson got money from Qatar, if he's on the side of Qatar now, or he's got some some money coming.
David came out with this video challenging him now.
Correct. That's right. Patrick Bet David has a podcast and he challenged Tucker Carlson for they would both show their finances and this, that, and the other. Well, we don't have to worry about where Tucker Carlson got his money because we absolutely positively, without a doubt, know where Donald Trump got his money because he said so.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they're trying to figure out whether Tucker Carlson got his money from somewhere in the Middle East. And Donald Trump told you that's where he got his money. Miriam Adelson is a dual citizen. Donald Trump even joked when he was in Israel that her alliances were with Israel over America's. He said that. Donald Trump said that. So he's taken $250 million from somebody whose alliances are with a foreign country, not America. And nobody even bats an eye. They're like, well, so what? Miriam Adelson, she's great. It's strange. You got to admit it's strange. I keep looking at the hypnosis angle because it doesn't make any sense. It does make sense, but it doesn't. If you're trying to explain it away, it gets very difficult to do.
Did you ever watch the BB Files? Did you ever get to watch that before?
No, you had to pay for it, and I didn't want to pay for it. I'm cheap.
Yes. So
did you see it?
It was on Amazon Prime, and then they took it down, and Tucker bought it, and he has it on his network now. But I got to see it while it was on Amazon Prime, and I've been telling people for a long time to watch it. But
so I have to watch this. I got to pay for it.
Oh my gosh, it is. It's one of the most eye-opening, clearly laid out documentaries.
Well, he's been a warmonger from day one. I have a friend that calls him Satan Yahoo.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So what did you learn? Just give me a couple tidbits. I'm very curious.
Yeah, for one, because it's not like we're keeping our pulse on the Israeli politics. You know what I mean? So one is that Netanyahu wasn't even a far right person. He was a liberal person, and then because of how the parliamentary system works, you got to have the support of the party or whatever, right? He switched, and now he's a far right guy, and he has always been against these people, and now he's with them. And so, kind of like Donald Trump,
very similar, right?
Very similar. But that's one thing that stuck out to me is that he was with this one party, and now he's with this new party that wants to build settlements and basically create more problems instead of trying to create peace. And so that stuck out to me.
Mossad is a war through deception.
Yes.
That's their tagline. Mossad's tagline is war through deception.
That's what they do.
And I got to ask, are we being deceived? Does it feel like you're being deceived in America right now? When you listen to what's going on in the news, do you go, I kind of feel like something's fake. This doesn't feel right to me. I don't know who's on whose side anymore. I don't know where we're even going to war. I don't know what's happening here. What's going on with my currency? What's going on with my home rates? Is everybody spying on me all the time? What happened with COVID? What happened with climate change? Are the UFOs coming? What happened with this lady, these 11 people that got assassinated? There's 1,000 different storylines that would lead you to believe that you're being manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right? I mean, just common sense to tell you that's what's going on. Now, some people just don't pay attention to anything. Right? They're just like, you know what? I'm not getting involved. I don't have a say in it. So I'm just going to excuse myself from it. I'm not going to pay attention to the news. I'm going to live my life. Those are probably the happiest people, but I can't get there. I can't let the world fall apart around me and not pay attention.
I was thinking about this the other day as I was driving, Rob, and I don't know why it came into my mind, but I thought about if I was the government, I would want the people just to fight amongst themselves so they don't pay attention to what I'm doing.
Of course.
And
so that's a strategy.
Yeah. And that's I know we talked about the parties, but like even the people, like we don't, I know my neighbors because I live in a small town and we live in a small town. So everyone knows everyone. But if you go to St. Charles or O'Fallon here in Missouri or something like that, people probably don't necessarily know all of their neighbors. They're not sitting in not a lot of people are sitting in the front yards anymore doing stuff like that. And I think it comes from the boogeyman thing that you talk about is when, TV started putting out, serial killers.
I bought right in.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all this, traumatic, terrible stuff there is probably stuff that's going on, but the news wants to exacerbate it.
There's no more Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah. You want to be afraid of your neighbor. We want you to be afraid of your neighbor because then you don't talk, then you can't organize, then you can't take any action. That's, I don't know if I'm becoming too conspiratorial here, but
I think you just, without being because I'm with you. I kind of get that way too. I'm like, do I think everything is a conspiracy now? I think everything's up for debate, and I think you can discuss conspiracies. Politics is about association and conspiracy to begin with. I have so many people in Missouri that are in the public arena. politicians and the like, people of their staffs, they won't have anything to do with me because of people that I'm associated with. They've never met me. They don't know me, never had a conversation with me. And I already know that they won't have anything to do with me through proxies because of people I associate with.
Wow.
Right. So if Donald Trump's association is Roy Cohn, then why would you think that he's not involved with the intelligence agencies?
Mm-hmm.
Roy Cohn was an attorney for the mafia, and that's Donald Trump's mentor. So, I mean, you don't have to take big leaps of faith. You just go, okay, well, here we go. Here's a guy that grew up in Queens and Manhattan, Roy Cohn, who was a gay man who was involved with who was the FBI guy? Hoover?
Hoover?
Yeah. So he was they were having escapades at the Blue Room in Manhattan. And Donald Trump says that Roy Cohn, who was the attorney for the mafia, was his mentor. And Roy Cohn said, never back down, never apologize, always move forward. And that's how Donald Trump does. I mean, so, you kind of figure these things out if you're willing to have your opinion and your perspective adjusted. But most people are very uncomfortable with that. I was going to say, you're talking about organizing to change things.
Yeah.
Who is the, I don't know why, you get tired, your mind starts to go south. Who is the guy that led the 1 Million Man March on DC? You know who I'm talking about? Do you remember that?
I know exactly. Let me look it up. I know exactly what you're talking about.
1 Million Man March into DC.
Louis Farrakhan?
Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah.
Louis Farrakhan. So Louis Farrakhan said that black men should be taking better care of their families. They should be better fathers. And he ran something called the 1 Million Man March on Washington. Right. So he got, and it looked like 1 million. There was a lot of people that made that march on Washington. It was really just a show of, just a show that black men who had been demonized because of the propaganda that came from rap music. And it was just all the image that was going on at the time. He wanted to say, listen, black men, take care of your kids, be better fathers. And we're going to show people that we're in this together. And he had a 1 million man,
this.
1 Million Man March on Washington.
I remember.
Why can't the American citizens say we're tired of our government lying to us? Can you imagine what it would look like if there were 1 million or 2 million or 3 million people marching on Washington saying we're tired of being lied to? We are tired of you guys deceiving us. We're tired of perpetual war. We're tired of your climate change nonsense. We got Missouri Clean Skies coming on Thursday to talk about what's being sprayed in our skies. These were all conspiracy theories 2 years ago, and now they're right out there in the open, and everybody knows that it's happening. And not much.
Probably gotta get Flat Earth Dave on here.
Been trying to get Flat Earth Dave on. I think that's an interesting conversation, don't you? I want to see the argument. There's a lot of smart people. I'm telling you, a lot of smart people believe the Earth is flat, and then there are other people that go, "That is so ridiculous. That is crazy." And I'm like, "Well, it might be, but why can't we have a conversation just to see what the guys got
At
to say?"
least to have a conversation about it,
right? You don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's
I've never been in anything that showed me the Earth was round. I've never experienced space, so who knows?
I forgot earlier. The second thing about the documentary is the interviews with Sheldon and Miriam Adelson. Sheldon had died in 2021, but they have interviews with the Israeli police. It's the Israeli police investigating Netanyahu, and Netanyahu does not like them. It's very interesting to see the relationship with
the ICC said he's a war criminal.
Yeah. And so, but you have, it's the cameras that are in police interrogation rooms. It's just like that corner camera. It's not like it's the documentary cameras. They just have the footage from these interviews. And I mean, Miriam Adelson, there's another guy besides the Adelsons that I can't remember. That's another Israeli billionaire. And they're just asking him like, why are you buying him $2,000 of champagne a week? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And
I saw some of those clips. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Why can't a friend just give a friend a gift, And
I want some gifts.
Yeah, I want some gifts, and it's like all that. But those interviews were the most eye-opening for me because I truly believe that these people never thought that these interviews would be seen. That's why they're coming forth and telling it. I think that they never thought that Netanyahu would even see them because some of them are friends with Netanyahu, and then they're telling stuff. They're kind of informing on him, Yeah. And so that was the most eye-opening thing to me, and the fact that there's Israeli journalists that are, I don't want to say attacking, but coming after Netanyahu. Those are the ones who are in this documentary getting interviewed. So it's not the American media that's doing this, And so that's an interesting perspective to me, is when you can get the people on the ground that are actually there, that are telling you with their own words that Netanyahu is a terrible person, and that's the person that he's governing.
Well,
it'd be
he's
like us going there and saying, "Hey, Trump's not the great guy."
Correct. Well, they're just like I said, they're creating war, and it's not to say I'm not rooting for the other side. If the American military gets into a war, even if it's an unjust war, I'm rooting for my side. Are you that way, Isaiah?
Yeah.
Not everybody is that way. Liberals are not that way. I sometimes think that we should lose.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Those are people that are representing this country. They've took an oath, and regardless of whether the government if the government sends her on a mission that is not good, I'm still rooting for my team. I'm going to root for these people no matter what. I love the military. I love the people that are brave enough to go do it. But that doesn't mean I can't say, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't be putting them in harm's way. Maybe we should slow down. Donald Trump is breaking the Constitution by starting a war just to begin with. That's let me find it.
That's the fact, Jack. That's the fact, Jack.
I got this guy. It's called the 10th Amendment Project or something like this. We're going to try and get him on. And he goes through the Constitution and what the founders talked about. And he said, the reason, I've talked about this too, so I agree with it. The reason you want your Congress to declare war is because Congress reports to the people, right? Your Congress people have to come back home. They have to see you. If you don't want war and they're voting for war, and the state of Missouri goes, wait a minute, we don't want any war. We're done with war. 70% of people in Missouri don't want war, and you're still voting for war. Well, then we're going to have a little problem with you. We got a little question. We'd vote you out if you didn't steal the elections as well. But now you're completely trapped. You don't have control of your elections. You got Donald Trump not even going to Congress. They call it a military intervention, but it's a war. I mean, Donald Trump's called it a war, so you don't have to take my word for it. He's called it a war. So if we've created a war and Congress didn't vote in favor of that war, then it's an illegal war. And it's treason. And nobody even cares anymore because Obama did it and Clinton did it. And so I'm like, well, then they're all treasonous. What's the difference? Put them all. I don't care. Yeah. You cannot start wars. You can't start bombing the infrastructure of other countries, and you can't start killing their people and flying military jets and taking out their Navy and their Army and their Air Force, and then say it's a military intervention. It's not a war. It's just like they did with COVID, with vaccines, genetic therapies. They just change the language on you and go, well, it's not a war because we call it a military intervention.
Yeah, if it was more like the Maduro situation, that's a different story, in my personal opinion. Maduro, we didn't go in, we didn't have troops. We're not hanging around. I mean, I guess we're helping them out, but I felt like the Maduro situation is much different.
I do too. I don't even know if I like that as much, but I understand it.
Oh, go.
Yeah,
right?
But I can at least, that was quick and easy. We didn't leave troops on the ground. I can understand that one a little bit better.
Our hemisphere, actually, versus the other side of the world. Those are some more positives about that, but that's what everyone was telling me when we were starting the Iran war. I was like, no, guys, this is not what's happening. It's not going to be a quick in and out overnight.
Impossible.
And they're like, no, this is 8D chess, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, I don't know.
I hope the man is playing, I don't even know what 5D chess is, but whatever it is, I hope that's what Donald Trump is doing. I truly am rooting for the man to be successful, so long as it's not at the expense of everybody in my life. Is that fair?
I think it's fair.
Let's do some. We're way overdue. What are you doing, Isaiah? You're supposed to keep this train on the track.
I know.
Let's do some advertisers, if you don't mind. And by the way, had 2 more advertisers reach out. We had 3 reach out the first time that we mentioned. If you want to get a hold of us, how do people, if they want to advertise, where do they go?
Yeah, so just go to Robb's X profile at the Robb Carter on X. His pinned post on his profile is what's called a link tree. That's just a single link where we have a bunch of links on there. And maybe I'll pull it up here while we're doing some ads, and I can show that too here to people to show all the links on there. But on there, there's a couple links. One, you can find everywhere where you can watch the show. Second, you can find the People's Lobby website, which is the best way you can support us is by donating to the People's Lobby website. And then the third
peopleslobbymo.com, peopleslobbymo.com.
peopleslobbymo.com. And then that third thing that Rob's mentioning is at the bottom of the link tree, there's a form there that you can fill out that we check every day if someone submitted a submission. If you'd like to advertise on the show, send us your name, your email, and Rob will reach out and get on a phone call with you. Perfect. So that's the easiest way.
Well, let's go with the advertisers that are in. We've had, I think since we started, there's 2 that I'm going to do for sure. And I think we've had 5 or 6 advertisers from Missouri reach out. And I think there's 2 that we're going to do for sure. And the other ones we either haven't talked to or haven't made a decision yet. But listen, good time to jump on. You're at the very beginning stages of this operation. It's going to be, well, the future #1 podcast in America is the plan. And if you know, Isaiah and I we're a little bit compulsive with this. Would you say, Isaiah? Yeah. We've been at it since we've been at it since 6 o'clock this morning. So, And when we get off, we'll be talking about it some more. I'll be studying till I go to bed, and we'll get up and do it all over again. It's crazy. All right, which advertiser you want to start
We
with?
enjoy it.
We do. I think that's why it's
That's what
fun.
my wife said. She goes, "Man, this is something that you could never get paid," and she hates that I think that way. But she's like, "You could never make any money, and you'd be fine doing this for the rest of your life." I was like, "I know, this is just
It's not all about money, right? You got to be happy.
Yeah.
I think you and I are information junkies. I think we like to do the right thing. We think we like to align ourselves with the right people. That's why advertising sounds kind of crazy when you say it, because I think people wonder whether you're genuine about it. But being aligned with your advertisers, we get into the same game together. I mean, we are partners in life. We have to be, because of the entire situation. I need them, they need me, and it becomes a big family. That's why I love what goes on with the People's Lobby. It becomes family for me. These are people I talk to routinely because we're in the same game. All right, let me start with.
I figured on that note, it'd be great to start with Rick Babbitts then.
Let's start with Rick Babbitts. He texted me during the show and he said, "Are you a fan of the movies Dune? Have you seen the movies, the Dune movies, Dune 1, Dune 2, whatever that is?"
No, I haven't.
I think it has something to do with politics. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
I got to check it out.
I don't know when I stopped, but I don't really watch the new movies.
I don't either.
I don't know what happened, but
Dune is an old one though.
Well, they have new ones that just came out. They do have old ones, and then they just re-released some new movies.
I think they did Dune too. Anyway, if you are in need of financial guidance, that's my man, Rick Babbitts. Look at that handsome face on the screen. My man, Rick Babbitts, you can reach out to him at 314-671-0525, Carrington Financial, yourcaringadvisor.com. He never tells me what to say, but I'll just say this, and I say it every day to remind people. If you're in the market, if you're nearing retirement and you need a second, third, fourth, or fifth opinion, I suggest you give Rick Babbitts a call. Primarily because he understands currency, he understands the politics of the day, and finally, Isaiah, because he's been right on the button with us since we have started using Rick Babbitts. And me, I would if it was something different than this, I'd let you know. He's grown my wife's 401k tremendously. Every time something's getting ready to go down in the market, he has some sixth sense. I don't even know what kind of algorithm he's got going on. He goes, got to get into these stocks right now. Got to get into these stocks right now. He's been guiding my wife through the process for I don't know how many months now, 4, 5, 6 months. And I think she's starting to fall in love with Rick Babbitts over me. Quite honestly, I gotta say, look, you can't talk to him anymore. He has to work through me because he's been very successful.
He's making her more money than you right now.
100%. That is, there's no doubt about that. Rick Babbitts is he's the money maker in the Carter family. Rick Babbitts, financial planning expert, biblical principles with your money. My man, 314-671-0525. 314-671-0525, or you can look him up at yourcaringadvisor.com. Again, his name is Rick Babbitts. All right, who's next?
Well, if you need money, you don't have a job, maybe you need to talk to Rocket Careers.
My man, he was in the app today. Rocket Careers. Now, this is more of a national organization, so they work from coast to coast. If you're out of work, if you hate your job and you want to launch a new career, lean on Rocket, ROCKIT careers.com. Mitch has been a friend of mine since high school, just a terrific guy. Mitch and Brian, they run the show over there. They are terrific at it. They know how to get you a job. They know how to get you in a position where you can find a job that you would love versus a job that you hate, but you got to pay the bills, right? That's what he likes to say. Find a job that you love. All of a sudden, life gets a lot happier. The sun starts to shine just a little bit more. RocketCareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com. Whether you hate your job or you're out of work, give them a call and they'll help you through the process. And then finally, if you're in a position where you hire people, maybe you're a small to medium-sized business owner and you just don't have time to deal with human resources, there's just not a time to hire people, to vet them, always think rocketcareers.com. All you got to do is say, hey, we're looking for a mechanic. We're looking for an engineer. We're looking for this. We're looking for that. They'll use their network that they've developed for years and years and years. They'll put the right person before you. They vet them. And then all of a sudden you start to get candidates that really can make your business better. RocketCareers.com, whether you're an employee or an employer, doesn't matter. ROCKIT careers.com, 636-778-2419. Rocket, baby, rocketcareers.com.
Valvoline Express Care.
Valvoline. What do I do with Valvoline? Put him up there. Put Valvoline Express Care up there, my man, Tony Clark. 15 minutes from Bay to on your way. Where is his stuff? Has it got his number on there and his locations? There it is. Okay, leave that right there because where's my paperwork? Hang on here because now I'm getting irritable.
It's a conspiracy.
It is. Somebody broke into my room and took away my, I mean, not the big a deal. We can work with it, but where'd it go? There we go. There we go. Put my phone on top of
You're
it.
starting to look like Alex Jones over there with all your papers.
I know. It's ridiculous. You should see how much paper I put together. Valvoline Express Care, my man, Tony Clark, been a big supporter of mine from the very beginning. He came into the station, said, I want to promote what you're talking about. And from that point on, I've been very in love with my man, Tony Clark. And I mean that not as Jake Jackson says, but as, from one man who appreciates another. Cape Girardeau, Missouri. These are his locations. Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Highland, we got Illinois in there too. Highland, Illinois, Troy, Illinois, Lee May Ferry Road, Warrenton, Missouri, Mid Rivers Mall Drive, and St. Peter's Parkway. But you can go to Valvoline-expresscare.com. You can see all the locations. 15 minutes from Beta on your way. When you're going to get an oil change, you don't like being irritated. No sales pressure, no appointments, all Valvoline branded products. Get in, get out. 15 minutes from Bay to on your way to a great day. Valvoline-Express Care. Check them out. Valvoline-expresscare.com. You can find out their locations, any deals they might have, coupons, you name it. Check it out. Who's next on that list?
Moe's.
My man Moe's. Well, I talked to Mo this morning, or not Mo, Mike Johns from Moe's. Oh, so here's what's going to happen, Isaiah. So we're having an event out there on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. We're going to do it from 9 to 12. He's going to let people in to watch the show, and then they'll start serving food as they always do at 11 o'clock. So if you are in the Franklin County area or the surrounding areas, we're going to do this. So if you have questions, we might have a couple politicians we'll invite, but we're going to do the show from Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri on May the 5th. Be there or be square. The first, I think, 40 or 50 people that come through the door, we're going to buy them a free lunch, sponsored by peopleslobbymo.com, peopleslobbymo.com. This is where you join our movement to have better government, to ask better questions, to figure out what's going on in the state of Missouri so that your kids and your grandkids can have a better life. Moe's Pizza. Great pizza, great salad bar. It's a pizza salad bar. So if you want to go in and just get down and eat for about 2 hours, they can take care of that for you. They have just the best chicken wings, sandwiches. They got it all for you. And when you leave, don't forget to get yourself a scoop of ice cream because their ice cream is on the money. I am an ice cream connoisseur. There's the picture of Mike Johns and his lovely wife, Brenda. Great people, family environment, no alcohol. It's like going into an old school family business where you're treated like one of theirs. Great people. Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri. God owns the place. He just works there. If you have any kind of get together, whether it's a banquet, you name it, birthday parties, anniversaries, political meetings, Bible studies, any kind of gathering, always think Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri. It is time for lunch. If you're getting hungry, get there. All right.
Jones, air and water.
He texted me today too. Let me get Everett Jones up here. What's he want to get across to me? Let me find Everett. So Everett put an air purifier in my home in St. Louis. I stay with my father in his condo when I come to town. And I was noticing that I was starting to get stuffy. I was starting to you recognize it when you do radio because you start to recognize it in your voice. And he said, you sound a little stuffy. He goes, I'm going to bring one of these over. So he brings this big box in, puts this air purifier in my home. And he said, Rob, promo this today. It's a Healthway air purification system. It cleans the air. He did the test right in front of me. It shows you the gunk that goes in, and then when it comes out, it's completely clarified or purified, so you don't have any of the gunk in your air. He shows you how it works. A terrific guy. Now, he is somebody that has been with me literally from day one. I mean, as soon as I got on the radio at Real Talk, I got a message from him. He's been wanting to advertise with me. I hope he sells a lot of water and air purifiers because he's a great guy with a great family. My man, Everett Jones. Check him out. Healthway Air Purification Systems. And he will take care of you. First thing to a happy, healthy home is clean air and clean water. Check out joneswater.com, joneswater.com at 636-899-1040. Real slow, 636-899-1040. You'll be the filter or you'll buy the filter, joneswater.com. He works primarily in Missouri and Illinois. On the Missouri side, he works in St. Charles County, Lincoln, Franklin, Warren, St. Louis, and Jefferson. And if you go to the east side, if you should decide to go to the east side, Madison, Monroe, Jersey, and St. Clair. joneswater.com, 636-899-1040. Grace Halling?
At least. Yes, gracehalling.com.
Bring them up there, my man Gary Schneider. Gracehalling.com, gracehalling.com, gracehalling.com. outstanding customer service. They pride themselves, like old school businesses, they pride themselves on outstanding customer service and competitive pricing. And I asked him, I said, Gary, what do you want me to say about your business? I like to remind everybody what he said to me. This is exactly what he said. Rob, but for the grace of God, I would not have this business. I said, well, I'll just say that. But for the grace of God, you would not have such a thriving business. GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com, whether you're a commercial customer, if you are a commercial customer, 2, 4, 6, and 8-yard dumpsters. You'll see the Grace Hauling label all over St. Charles County. He is the king of St. Charles County. His business was established in 1998. If you're a residential customer, maybe you're moving, maybe you're doing some spring cleaning, maybe you're just getting rid of some big bulk items. If you have trash, all things rubbish, recyclables, yard waste, and bulk pickups, always think GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com. All right, Isaiah. Boy, you ran me late today. 3 hours
I know,
and
can you believe it?
of broadcasting. I say one of these days we do 24 hours. We'll see if we can do 24 hours of broadcasting. Maybe we'll put a movie on every now in the middle of it or a little something going on and see what we can do with 24 hours. Maybe we make news by doing 24 hours of you and I sitting together doing a live broadcast, and I'll talk about all of the things that get people.
That's what the kids do nowadays is they do 24-hour streams. And
no way. Is that for real? I was kind of I think I was joking. Now you're going to hold me on it.
No, ask your kids about it. They probably know some streamers that they follow that have done some crazy stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, they'll just set up they'll go to sleep, then they'll just set up a camera in their bedroom, and people just watch them sleep, and then they wake up and they keep going. It's so funny.
All right, well, I can do that. If all I have to do is sleep, we can make that happen.
Yeah, I did.
How many people do you think would join the stream if we did the show for 3 hours and then I fell back in this chair and went to sleep for 2? Do you think we'd have more? Or do you think what's this guy doing sleeping? Do you think the interest level would get people to check it out?
The interest level would probably be high eventually. Yeah. What's this guy doing sleep? It's like the video cameras of, sometimes it'll be like a bird who's hatching out, like gonna hatch, and it's like a live stream camera. And I don't know if that was like a trend a couple of years ago. There was a hatching bird and everyone was watching this live stream that like no one ever really watched at all. But because this was happening right then,
and people want to see it.
Watching it. Yeah.
Amen. All right, Isaiah, great to see you. Thanks for sticking around for a little extra time today. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on the Robb Carter Show. Have a great day, everybody.